Hello, 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 and welcome to the first episode of Survivor Rankdown Podcast's Survivor Retrospective series. I am your host, Mike Grant72, and no better way to kick us off than by saying, yeah, this is episode one, which means we're talking about Survivor 46, obviously. No, this year,
Hype.
we're talking about Survivor Borneo, and with this series, we plan on trying to finish it before the premiere of season 50, and we'll be going through all 48 seasons of Survivor that have currently aired. We will do live coverage for 49, but yeah, again, we'll just have 5 people per each of these episodes, and we will basically do a retrospective on their respective seasons. So we'll do Borneo for this episode, Australian Outback next episode, Survivor Edge of Extinction for episode 3. You get the gist.
I love it.
Education.
The
Yeah,
best one. I mean, you might as well skip to it.
exactly. So again, we're gonna before we delve into what I think matters most for Survivor Rankdown itself, which is ranking every character in Survivor, we're gonna go over just like general thoughts on the season, the storylines, the theming, some secrets and lore and whatnot, and then sorry, hiccups. At the end, we're gonna go over the entirety of the season and its impact, and yeah.
All
So
right.
I
I
love it.
feel I don't. Well, not all of us have been on the podcast before, but most of us have. So let's just take it away and reintroduce yourselves.
All right.
I guess
Well,
alphabetically
ABC it.
it'd be Caleb.
All right. My name is Caleb. I was a ranker on Survivor Rankdown 5, and I am the person who gave Jeff Probst the idea for Final Four fire making.
Oh
Thank
yeah.
you, dude. Always finding good ways to improve the show. I appreciate that. Hey,
Yeah.
I am Funky Kong. I am Funky. That's what they call me. I am currently in Survivor Rankdown 9, so if you want to hear my opinions on Dirk, they're out there on the internet. So I'm very excited to be here. This is my favorite season, so we're gonna get to rocking and rolling.
I'm Kyle, and I'm a sexually frustrated 23-year-old religious virgin. So,
Uh,
Our listener base too, so it's cool.
yeah, we're all Dirk
yes.
fans here, right?
Yeah, we just got a million people named Dirk watching this. I am I am Nope. I am currently a ranker on Rank Down 9 as well with Funky, and I do not have my kids out of wedlock.
That's good. I'd shame you if you did.
Oh, no, I'd be curious.
Yeah, but abortion totally okay with Rudy.
It's really cool to be pro-life, or pro-choice, anti-kids out of wedlock. That's just like I feel like a political stance you don't see anymore.
So I love how he's also just vibing in the ocean during that confessional. This is
Yeah.
just thoughts he has while vibing.
He really does just have like banger spot after banger spot after banger spot for his
Yeah, well,
confessionals. Sometimes he's just
yeah,
giving
but
them in the middle of camp.
Oh, he's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
we'll get to Rudy a lot, obviously, but you want to just jump
Yeah,
right
probably will
into
take a while.
our
All right.
just some general statements on the season to open us out, you know?
Yeah.
For sure.
I want to go ahead and put a little bit of the context into Survivor, just as a TV show. Reality television wasn't particularly new. We had Real World, but something important about that is that was MTV, that was premium cable. That was, I think Real World capped at 26 years old. So it was all young
25, I
people.
think.
Yeah, yeah, maybe 25 even. So yeah,
Because
all young
Cyrus looked
people,
like he was 40, so you never know.
all incredibly young people. So reality television on network TV was a really big deal. But to coincide with that, this was a summer show, and summer shows historically were not a big deal because, of course, in the summertime, people were on vacation, they were doing fun things. So, TV
Yeah, you didn't
viewership in the
want to.
summertime, that just wasn't a thing that was as popular. So, even though it's crazy how big Survivor became in spite of a shitty time slot is kind of
Yeah,
the initial
Yeah.
point of the show. Like, it really was given they gave Mark Burnett that time slot just because it was so out there, so new, and very experimental. So might as well give him that show. And by the end, 53 million people watched that finale.
yeah.
And Survivor, if I remember correctly, it it might be the biggest summer show they've ever had on TV. But I remember they said
Probably Big
it beat the
Brother
Sonny and Cher.
26, right? Pretty
Yeah,
big
yeah.
one.
But the Sonny and Cher show before that was the biggest summer show of all time. So
Mm.
yeah,
That's a
that's pretty good.
throwback right there.
Yeah.
More people watched Richard Hatch running around naked than Sonny and Cher. That's
And I'm
Now,
sure they
did
all
any of
loved
us
it.
watch this season live? Because I know I wasn't alive at all.
Oh
um
yeah.
I
I
was born
was
around Africa.
I was I was like 35 years old. No. I was not alive.
Yeah, I was very young, um, and have very, like, little memories of those early survivors, but my mother was really into reality TV. Like, we had EMTV so she could watch The Real Worlds and The Challenge,
Oh, yeah.
Road Rules, and, so the survivors were always on. So I have, like, memories kinda growing up, just, like, brief flashes before I eventually kinda had a coherent thing and we had internet, and because my mom loved it, I became kind of obsessed with it too, and, with the internet, and, that first season coming out on DVD, um, I've watched it a ton growing up. So I kinda have a good place of things I remember, but I wasn't, like, totally, totally there live for the
Yeah.
first, like, pre-All-Stars stuff.
Yeah. I when I first watched this season, I was a part of the dreaded section of the fan base that started watching during COVID.
So was I. So
Oh
was I.
no.
But I will never forget watching this season for the first time and just seeing that whole dynamic between Richard and Rudy play out, and just seeing how they were able to get along so well despite their massive differences in ideologies and all that. And obviously that sounds, and I was, because back then I mean I was aware of, like, stuff like that, but I hadn't really fully experienced a lot of things of that level at the time. But that was, I think, that thing right there, those whole moments, those first few moments of Richard and Rudy bonding, that was really what hooked me onto this show forever, and that's where I am today. And really, just in general, they really got the best 16 people possible for this cast. They nailed this season out of the
Mhm.
park with it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even the
Yeah.
people that you don't think about when you think about the season are just excellent. I mean, like
yeah.
they all fill
Was
what they're meant to be
was
perfectly.
Borneo the first season that you watched? Nope.
Yeah, yeah, I went in order.
Oh, that's awesome. Damn,
It's
that's
Good for
so
awesome.
you.
peak.
Second
I
season I watched after Pearl Islands. I went in
Yeah,
order
because like
after that one.
whenever I watch shows, I just don't get why people wouldn't watch in order. Really, like I've seen a lot
Mm.
of people do it, but like I just never really gotten that.
Yeah, my first season was Millennials Gen X.
Yeah, and you kept
Um
watching.
yeah, and I kept
Yeah.
watching. No, but I watched it and I was like I randomly scrolled to, like, during the first 2 seconds of the premiere of Millennials Gen X, I was like, "Holy shit. That's the show that Total Drama is based off of. Let me watch it."
Oh,
So I
So the
geez.
Why
watched
was
first
this?
moment you ever saw of
so
Survivor was Jeff Probst asking Chris Hammonds if he uses a U or he types out YOU.
Yep. No, but I
Awesome.
watched
Whoa,
that season
deep.
as an 11-year-old. I liked it, and then I turned 12, and then the next season I watched after that was Borneo.
All
And,
right.
I was a very dumb, sheltered 12-year-old watching Survivor Borneo, and even I knew it was kind of perfect. Um,
So basically, everybody here watched this season second, but nobody watched it first.
My first one where I like computed what was really going on, like in thinking about stuff, was like around Vanuatu and Palau, like that cycle. But like I said, my parents always had it on, and we had the DVD, and I would watch. I got really, really into it. So, like my kind of order of watching those first, 7 or 8 of them, I don't exactly know, but I do remember going on YouTube back when I think that there was like a 10-minute limit of videos, and it was
Yeah,
before,
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
was copyrights and stuff up the wazoo, and I watched like crappy VHS rips
Oh
of
yeah, where they have it like a
those.
little bit smaller in the screen so they don't get
Yeah,
They have it
copyright.
in the
they
But
have it
corner.
like
It's a little bit
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
something
pixelated.
like
yeah,
that.
mhm.
they have
Yeah,
like
and
this.
like
They have these changing colors of backgrounds, and there's this little small screen, and it's high pitched. So they just
Oh, right. That's how it was meant to be seen. Um, but yeah, I think if you're watching this and you're a fan of the newer seasons, you haven't seen Borneo, I think we would all recommend it very highly.
Oh yeah,
Like very, very highly. I am not going to speak for everyone. This is my favorite season of the whole show.
this is my number 2 behind
yeah,
Fur
this is
Island.
my number one. This is just the one that I think you can get the most mileage out of in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
yeah,
It's
Yeah,
just so beautifully raw, and I think structured really, really well. And a lot of things go perfectly, which we'll
And a
we'll
lot
get
of things
into
go
why some things
perfectly.
went perfectly.
yeah,
wow,
Like
why
some
things went
ones.
perfectly. Yeah.
yeah. And
This
again,
is
like this,
this is my number 4. Although that has nothing to do with the season itself, and more so that I just love 3 other seasons more. But really, just so many things about this season are just so amazing.
Yeah.
exactly, and like it really was lightning in a bottle. Like the chances of it playing out the way it did were, well, I don't want to say that they were like super low considering some things we'll be getting into, but again, what we got, it could not have been any better.
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
has
I think absolutely.
the perfect boot order. Probably
Mhm.
the best boot order in the history of the show,
No,
honestly.
Jervis should have won, but we'll get to it.
It really is like
No, it's amazing. Yeah.
so monumental of an achievement, frankly.
Yeah.
Like to make something so low budget and to be so successful with it. And obviously that speaks a lot to like just the general idea that they had. Obviously the cast as well.
Mhm.
Like they said before, it's cast perfectly, but like even just like in terms of like formatting and like the amount of probably time and planning that went into trying to get everything perfect on that. It's like you really do have it perfect the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And
it
that's
Yeah,
what makes it
Yeah.
really unfortunate when every time they change the format after that, it's just so like unfortunate.
Yeah, they do kind of change the format to be a little bit worse every time.
Yeah, and like
yeah.
I don't know. I don't mind tribe swaps sometimes. I'll say that. At least that one's fun.
There are plenty of things that they do that's like, well, this isn't show ruining, but it's like when you have it perfectly right the first time, it's unfortunate every time there is a change that just kind of like, so kind of like not take it down one notch,
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes multiple notches.
for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of that credit goes to I know a kind of controversial figure in history, but Mark Burnett as a
Hmm.
Yep.
creative and as a
Yeah,
yeah,
producer.
I mean,
Just
visionary.
yo, yeah, just someone who saw the potential in this format, which on a scale this big, where he thought it was something everyone could enjoy. Of
Yeah.
course, he has his shortcomings in other ways, but like I was saying earlier, there's old people on this cast. There's people from pretty much all different kind of subsects of the country. Um, and it was just kind of wild to see all of that up in this beautiful big mix of stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
and like we were talking about as a the way it was structured and as a producer and all that. He was a very on hands producer. In these
Oh,
first
absolutely.
8 seasons,
Hmm.
he's there every day. on location, with the production crew, with the cameraman.
with the
He
with the
was
Yep.
players.
And
yeah,
now
with the
he
Projectile.
players,
and now
with
Mark
the
Burnett has
editing
showed up.
room.
Now Mark Burnett has showed up on location maybe once in the last 15 years.
Yeah, for like the
Yeah,
win. Yeah,
probably.
for like Winners at War, and like that's it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
it
just
was
say hi to
basically
Listen,
just
Boss
you
and
him.
got
Rob.
you got to
Makes
show
sense
face
too.
for the best season.
Yeah,
But
I wonder if he's
yeah,
gonna show up for 50 just for Colby.
There's no chance he is.
no, I
He's
was
too
just gonna
busy right
say,
now.
for as much as obviously Mark Burnett rightfully gets a lot of flack now for a lot of other reasons, it just cannot be understated that this man nailed. Obviously, as I said this before, this man nailed it out of the park with casting. But as Funky previously stated, there is somebody for every demographic on this cast, more so than a lot of these other seasons, where it's a lot more stated, very clearly stated that there is somebody for every demographic on this cast. You feel like you can put yourself in the shoes of every character, and it would make sense a lot more than pretty much any other season.
Yeah, even the quote unquote, I guess, larger than life characters, if that's the right way to put it, feel like genuine and authentic. Like, I know now everyone's kind of just putting on a front for TV, and, like, again, I'm probably more positive on the way the show is now than the rest of you guys, but again, the authenticity and just like confessional style in general is close to unrecognizable.
Yeah, it's unmatched to me. It's unmatched, really.
Yeah, I remember reading something that Joel put out, and he was talking about the getting used to the cameras, and he was like, um, yeah, how quick it became. He said, of course, Mark Burnett's for a little bit of history. This crew that did it, Mark Burnett had a previous show called Eco Challenge that was more focused on the actually surviving the elements and stuff like that. But it's the same camera crew, so it's a and production crews. So it's a very tight knit, well oiled machine, kind of from the very beginning. And they knew how to interact with people. And Joel was comparing it to going to a restaurant and like, the very first time it's kind of weird and at the beginning. But then, the waiter, you start recognizing the waiters and the staff and this, and that. And eventually, that just kind of becomes your place, like going to a restaurant or a bar enough times. And he said that's kind of was the feeling when he was doing the shows and the interviews and all that.
Yeah.
It's also
I
so
mean,
important to recognize that, like, whenever anything happens on the season, whenever a character says something, whenever a character does something, a vote happens, whatever, it's like it's literally breaking new ground every time it happens. So like when you're coming from the perspective of somebody that like, oh, I've watched 25 seasons and now I'm going to go back and watch Borneo, you really don't get a lot of that, that kind of, what's the word that I'm looking for?
Luster.
like
Yeah, the
impact.
luster, but like no, it's like I can't think of the word, but basically like everything happening is so basically crazy for it being the first time, and you have to look at it and go, "Holy crap!" They're doing this, they're doing that. Richard Hatch is getting naked. Like Sean is saying a slur on TV. It's like you can everything is like such a unique, authentic experience because it's the first time, and that can really be lost
Yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
with
what I think what got a lot of people hooked on the show though is, I mean, obviously, you watch the first episode and it's like, oh, these people building a community together and they vote people off, whatever. I think a lot of the appeal before the show aired is like they're sending these people out to die.
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that was a big
danger.
thing.
Yes.
They thought it was called Survivor because only one person would live, and it would have like the winner was the person who survived on the island. They didn't realize the voting thing was even a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
like I know I've heard Mario Lanza, the famous Funny 115 guy, talk about this before, where he had like a big party with his roommates of something. Is like, we're gonna see somebody die on national television, and then nobody died in the first episode, and they were all so mad.
And
Yeah.
Mark Burnett
yeah,
was mad too that no one died on the
Yeah,
show.
he
but then
tried
they
his
see a
hardest.
conversation
Oh
between
man.
Richard Hatch and Sue Hawk 10 minutes in, and they're like, okay,
Yeah,
maybe no one died, but is this the next best thing? Maybe.
that was the moment that Mark Burnett has said that he was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be the biggest show on television." Was after the Richard and Sue argument where Richard's pompous ass is sitting on that tree trying to gather these group of 8 people that finally met each other and are talking and are frantic as fuck and just paddled to an island. And Richard's trying to settle it all down and lay the law of the land, but that doesn't work in the bush.
Yeah. All right, what do we got next?
Yeah. So the general storyline of the season. To segue into this, it's more than just reality TV with I guess the Burnett effect as with the actual events that played out. Burnett carefully crafted like an actual storyline out of it,
Mhm.
Yeah,
so that like
famously, he
it
said
feels
he wasn't competing with Big Brother in the real world. He was competing with The Wire and The Sopranos. He said he was making an unscripted drama.
which I mean, you watch Borneo and it the way it plays out, it fucking feels like an unscripted drama, which is
Yeah, I'd say
incredible that
the
this
first season that
this
feels like a game show is probably like Guatemala. I think that's
yeah.
when it
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
makes the
I
switch
mean,
to.
it's the moment that Stephanie and Bobby John pop out of the temple. Like that's when it's
It's
Yeah,
like, oh, that's what we're doing now.
yeah.
All right.
yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, one thing that is like probably like the biggest thing with the storyline and the impact is mainly how Mark Burnett is really trying to tell like a documentary style that is almost like a commentary on society as a whole with the people involved on this season. And
Yeah, he was
no, you can go.
like actively storyboarding this thing. Like I think that's
Yeah.
something people don't always think about with reality TV. Like this was something that was storyboarded. He just had all the footage and the results beforehand. So it's like,
yeah,
let me
yeah.
take this and storyboard something to, get like I think he said it was like he had to write a story knowing how it ended, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you get to like Toggy. Like, take a look at the Toggy tribe, for example. That is like Mark Burnett's dream tribe right there. You get Richard Hatch, this arrogant, gay, pompous d-bag out here, with Rudy Bosch, this grumpy old Navy SEAL, 70s age, who is like very, old style traditionalist, was openly saying in pregame interviews he was hunting for LGBTQ people. Uh,
Yeah, he said if he saw anyone gay, he would vote him out immediately.
Yeah, he knew all of those letters back to back to back to back.
Yeah, I think he said
and
LGBTQIA plus. I think he said that whole thing.
yeah, and you also have Dirk being this heavy, heavy religious guy from Wisconsin who just despises whenever gay people talk about their life. He was just like, "Oh, I hate when," and then, of course, there's the infamous confessional where Dirk's talking about, "Oh, I hate when gay people talk about themselves all the time. It's so annoying."
Which is really good because that scene's right after like a compilation of Dirk telling every single person in the tribe that he's a virgin and his whole thing. And then right after
Like,
that,
Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson's actually frustrated.
Yeah, it's so great that, in these I think in a lot of these early seasons, they do a purposeful job of laying the scenes in a way
Yes.
where it's not directly fed to you what you should think, what you should believe. It doesn't always feel like, oh, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. It's like we get like a scene, like you were saying, of Dirk saying, "Oh, gay people talk too much about being gay," and then we get a scene about Dirk talking a bunch about his religion and his sexuality and not his sexuality, his lack of having
Yeah.
sex.
Sexual
And
frustration.
yeah, and we get the reactions on both sides. We get even one of my favorite confessionals is Rudy, who says, "I'm a religious guy too, but the only good thing that a Bible would be out here for is for toilet paper." You know,
that is
it's
the
like
most. I'm just telling you right now. That is the
yeah,
most underrated quote of the entire show.
It
so
is.
good. Sue
It's
says,
awesome.
I go to church. I put in my fair amount of time of
Yeah,
preaching,
she
but
put in her time.
She
I
put
put
in
in
her
my time and
time.
Oh
I don't need to
god.
hear that shit all the time. So it's so great. And another great scene, is, when the tribes emerge and they're all talking about Jervis, who's one of my all-time favorite characters. And they're like, Greg is saying like how proud he is of Jervis. Like that is a guy that's totally out of his element and he's here and he's kicking ass. And then you get other people that are saying, oh, he doesn't do jack shit. He is the laziest motherfucker, but he keeps getting away with it. And, you cut to Sue.
I think you cut out a little bit there, but yeah, no. When Sue calls
They are
Jervis
all
when Sue calls Jervis a pervert,
Oh man.
but
That's awesome.
yeah, what one of getting on that point. There's two really good scenes where we get the family video episode with Greg and his sister, and they do those
Baby.
whole kissy motions up there, and we cut on two confessionals with Rudy and Richard talking about how Rudy's like, oh well, I think it seemed like incest.
They just blatantly say it outright, and then Rudy's
Oh
like,
man.
"Yeah, if he's here a few more days, we're gonna kill him."
And yeah, no, yeah, he says in the video, Rudy's like, if
would
he's
that do
here
you a
days,
favor?
we'll kill him. And then
Maybe that'll be doing you a favor.
and
That
then after he
breaks
says that, we
Greg.
get to Richard's point of view is like, well, I mean, I don't really care at all, if they find enjoyment in that, so be it. Let's just, yeah, why not? And they do that multiple times throughout the season as well. They do the same thing with the scene with Jervis when Jervis gets the news that
Yes.
his kid was just born out of, well, like they do the same thing with the contrasting confessionals between Rudy's point of view and Richard's point of view, and I really like when they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as an overall story, to segue poorly, the question at the heart of the whole season is like, what would you do for $1 million? And I think that a lot of people, it sounds corny now. I think a lot of people don't like Borneo because the alliance is considered like cheating basically. But it is like, a lot of 12 people on that cast wanted to, well, 11 because Stacy, but most of the cast wanted to
15.
have a fair game where they like all voted out who was the worst around camp and who was helping least with survival, and it was all about winning challenges. And then four people, the Tagi Four didn't, and
Yeah, like
that's their answer. They wanted to play a game where the people who make it to the end aren't the people who deserve to make it to the end the most. They wanted it to
yeah,
be them,
The
regardless
like
of how.
beautiful thing is
Yeah,
some of those
just the
people
people that
think
work
that's
together. That's
fair.
it.
you
Yeah,
know so we get these beautiful ethical discussions on this. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people that are listening that grew up in an era of competition reality television where this was the norm. You go in there to win and this and that, and it's a game at the end of the day, that kind of stuff. This was completely uncharted territory. No one knew exactly what they were getting into. um, and a lot of people, when they play a game, there's rules, there's unspoken rules, even in a way too. Just gentlemanly, kindly things to do to make it fair. And we have a game with very little rules that pops up, and we get to see how each individual person approaches that situation and what they consider fair, not fair, ethical, unethical. Richard says he plays one of the most ethical games possible out there.
yeah,
And I
which
don't
Yeah,
think a lot of
which
I don't.
America believe that.
Yeah,
But
but I
his
also
perspective
which
is
in
very
many ways you
interesting.
could
I don't
argue
think
like,
Richard is inherently wrong because it's like,
yeah,
yeah, the goal is to make it to day 39, and what's the best way to do that is to work with other people to get there. And I don't disagree that Richard was playing unethically, and I don't disagree with Pagong thinking that their way of I guess playing the game was ethical.
yeah, because like the big thing is that when Richard says, "Oh, I think I'm playing the most ethical game out here," most of the viewers at first are thinking, "Oh yeah, this guy's so arrogant, he's gonna get completely laughed out of the building." But when we get to Final Tribal, the reason why he wins is because at the end of the day, he was honest about what he was doing. Kelly, on the other hand, was trying to be like this whole flip-floppy, I'll be try to be ethical one day, but then I'll be cutthroat the next day, and that just didn't sit well with the majority of people. And that's really how Richard ends up winning the game, and everybody's just stunned that the guy who literally said it the first day, oh, I've got the $1 million check written already, ends up winning.
Man, yeah.
It really
Yeah.
just like establishes well what most of the fan base like kind of doesn't understand what it exactly means when Richard Hatch's win established everything. It's like it established everything because it was a guy who got to the end and was like, "Yeah, this is everything I did to get here, and I stand on that."
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
sure we're gonna talk about this in the Outback one, but it's clear how much it affected, the public who watched it, because everyone on Outback is clearly playing with the knowledge that Richard Hatch won $1 million, but he was hated. So they're trying to play as much like him as possible without coming across like they are,
Hmm.
which is why I love Tina, because she's the best at
Yeah,
that.
that's the appeal of Outback.
Yeah,
Yeah, is
that's
that
gonna be
Tina's
fun
the
getting into
exact same
that.
as Richard Hatch. Yeah, oh man, I love Tina.
Yeah.
Tina's
To
I saw Tina on an RHAP podcast where she was being interviewed by Brandon Donlin, and Tina was saying, "Oh, I would have loved to come back for 50 because I would have loved to show that I can play the modern game." And I'm like, Tina, you kind of proved that on season 2."
None of
for
Yeah,
these none of
sure.
these people need to come back to prove anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how popular this take is. I mean, I'm sure it's fine with us, but among the wider fan base. But I think if you wanted to say that Tina was the greatest Survivor player of all time, I'd have a lot of trouble disagreeing with that.
Great take.
Yeah.
And another one we'll go up with right now is just returning seasons aren't
Same with
real.
Richard Hatch. Oh yeah, returning showings aren't real. Who gives
Yeah,
a shit
that's
that she
a
was voted out first on All Stars because she won? Like, what?
yeah,
That means
that's a
nothing.
completely different game, a
Yeah,
completely different set of circumstances where
she was
people are
literally
usually punished due to their
yeah
either their celebrity or their reputation or how well they
yeah
did the last time. It's
she was
stupid.
literally flown out there to get voted out first. Like, what are
Yeah.
you supposed to do about like? There's nothing Tina could have done, and it does not have any sort of indication on her as a player.
There's
Yeah.
a reason that it
And
Probably the best.
required a Survivor player as terrible as Richard Hatch.
Yeah,
I mean, no, it's Russell Hantz. Sorry.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
it
Tina's
required a player as terrible
probably
as Russell Hantz to get somebody who
yeah,
didn't do terribly on their first season to actually win on a returning player season.
yeah. I mean, Tina, probably the best first boot of all time.
yeah, as a player, definitely, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
we'll
her
hear the
Zayn.
I guess because we're on this little bit, I do want to let's dispel a couple of the Borneo myths because we went a
We're
little bit
Yes.
not
about
we're not
returning
quite there
players.
yet. We're not
Yeah.
quite
Oh,
there
okay.
yet.
We're not
I
quite there
was
yet,
just gonna
but
talk about just the
Should I?
initial feeling of stuff like Richard Hatch is overrated because he came
No one
back
else is
and
playing the
did
game.
mid or no one else is playing the game. Even in All
I
Stars,
completely
you have
disagree.
multiple people saying, "Oh, he only won because no one knew how to play,"
yeah, the
which
whole
I
no
think
one
is
playing the game myth
silly.
is so stupid.
I think
Yeah,
the
if you
16 people were playing the game. Richard Hatch is the one who knew how to play it right, but everyone was
yeah,
playing the game.
and
Everyone
people
had
were
their
playing
own
the
way
game
of playing the
similar to
game. It's just that
Richard.
Richard's one worked the best.
Yeah.
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 And Sue was playing a game similar. Stacy was playing a game similar. Joel was trying to play a game that was fairly similar. It
Greg
Why did
just
he
knew
didn't
go
how
work
out?
to.
out.
He just didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was
I
just
mean,
around
Sean
people that
was
didn't.
trying to play that game and not let anyone know pretty
Yeah.
clearly.
Yeah.
Smart guy.
Sean
He's our
Kenneth.
favorite
Yeah,
guy.
we'll get to Sean's amazing attempts at strategy later
Dude,
down the
Sean
line, but
sounds smart in real life.
Oh yeah, yeah. He gets a bad rep in terms of his intelligence, and he is a goof, but it's like he's a smart guy. And you could see that, I think, if you're actively
yeah.
trying to pay attention.
Like he's
Yeah.
one of those
But
people that's clearly smart outside of the game, but he's not game smart.
Yeah.
He's
All love
he's
to
a
Dr. Sean, though. He's my favorite character in Seinfeld.
Yeah. What
But
you know, that was the big thing they always compared him to is Jerry Seinfeld at the time. He was the Seinfeld on
Yeah,
the island, which like I get, but at the same time,
it's because he
like
started
I
dating a
think
teenager.
yeah,
Dr.
yeah, they
Sean
both
didn't do
Wait,
did.
that. I'm
whoa,
making a joke about
whoa,
Seinfeld.
whoa,
To be
wait,
Yo,
wait,
clear,
hold
wait.
up.
This is the first I'm hearing about this. What the
to be
fuck?
clear, Dr. Sean didn't do that. I'm making a joke about Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that was the
I mean, I knew that was a Seinfeld joke, but I'm like, oh god, did Dr. Sean do that shit
no,
to
no,
No,
Jerry
no, no, no,
Dr.
Seinfeld?
no, no,
Sean,
no.
not
great guy.
yeah.
I've
No.
never heard a single bad story about Dr. Sean.
We're
But
getting so
back
We
destroyed
all
for
have.
this.
We all bought the jerk at work here. We all love the guy.
we all bought Etre the cow. I read it every night. But anyways, about Sean and Seinfeld, it a big difference is I always thought Sean was someone who wasn't like Seinfeld in the sense that he was trying to be a nice guy that whole time,
Yeah,
which ended up kind of backfiring in some ways because people thought he was flaky and inauthentic.
he tried
But
too
I
hard to
think
be
he's
nice.
trying not to hurt any feelings. He wasn't having super petty arguments. Like he was doing like, his little side quests with Super Bowl 2000 and the bowling alley and shit that people thought was useless as fuck. But it's like, no, I think the core character of Dr. Sean is a lot different than the core character of the character Jerry Seinfeld. So
But
I
yeah,
also think, yeah,
yeah.
I think
Oh,
the core character of Dr. Sean is also a lot different from how the fan base likes to characterize him.
well, yeah,
yeah,
of course. We'll get back to that in a little bit because, well, we don't want to
we'll go
say
through
too
the
much before
characters.
the character ranking
Exactly.
stuff. But
Do we want to get into the
Let's
I do have one
theming?
more thing to say. I do have one more thing to say. Um, One thing that especially these early seasons do so well is that like there's the main big storyline or the main big storylines of the season, and then there's all these little storylines between other people that are kind of very neatly tightened up. There's so many. They managed to have so many storylines throughout the season that all feel like they have a good ending to everything, and that's what
Well,
is
it's
something
because
that is
yeah,
so
it's because they
impressive.
only have a 16-person cast. Helps.
It's because they have a 16-person cast and don't do split tribals after Mergatory to get rid of two black contestants every season.
Oh no. They
I think this season should have had a fake merge. I love Mergatory because when everyone votes together, that's not the merge. But when they split up into two groups to vote separately, that's the merge. It's
dude,
just
that
all
makes
Well, yeah.
sense.
All right. Do we want to move on to the next slide here?
I will say,
Let's keep going.
story-wise, and we'll get into it more with characters specifically. Um, one of my favorite storylines of the season is the Kelly Sue dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
Hmm.
yeah.
Like there's two big storylines throughout the season. There's the Richard Hatch, who he is as a person and how he lives his life and how that interacts with everybody else and why he wins. And the other big storyline is the Sue Hawk and Kelly Wigglesworth whole trying to play the game and how they end up conflicting so hard at the end because Kelly wants out of the alliance, wants in the alliance, wants out of the alliance, flip flop all the time, and it gets to a point where Sue just has enough, and they have the big argument at I think final five around there.
Yeah, I think so.
Phenomenal. One of the greatest things I've ever seen. And
Yeah, the second best big argument to happen at the final five of Survivor, even.
Yeah,
and
maybe that'll be
and
yeah, behind
possible.
and then
behind
as
Cassidy and Carla.
Yeah,
yes,
behind Cassie and
True.
Carly. Yes.
and then of course we all know how it ends with Kelly voting Sue on the tiebreaker, which leads to one of the most raw and I hate to I don't I hate making this expression, but one of the most raw and real scenes you will ever see on any reality TV season with that Sue's iconic jury speech.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe
It's
that
amazing.
might be the greatest moment in the entire new Survivor. I think that would
Yeah, it
be
is.
It is. It is.
It's
That might
definitely
be
the
the
most.
greatest
It's
thing
definitely the
in
most defining for sure.
yeah.
It is the greatest moment in the history of Survivor as a franchise ever.
yeah, I think of reality TV that there's little moments that even compare. I think that's probably number
Yeah.
one. That's the thing a lot of people remember. If they remember a specific, a lot of people remember, eating bugs and vote off the island or
Richard's naked. Yeah.
yeah, naked guy or guy in the fire and stuff like
Yeah.
A
that.
naked
Which,
guy.
all good stuff, but a defining moment be like, damn, someone really just told someone that they would let them die of thirst in the desert.
Without even
Like,
thinking about giving them a drink of water.
yeah, nah, man, that's fucked. And it's so
Um,
beautiful. A few episodes ago, we had a teary-eyed confessional of her first woman friend in years since her last one died, and she says, "I won't fuck her. I won't. I will never screw her over."
And
And
then she gets screwed over.
yeah, and she gets screwed
Yeah,
over.
like
And
yeah,
snakes
that's
and
why she was
rats
so
is like,
mad.
mhm, like
mhm.
snakes and rats is like, we'll get into it more, like when we really should be getting into it more. But snakes and rats is like genuinely a heartbreaking speech.
Yeah,
Oh
for sure.
God,
Yeah.
All right.
I'm I'm impressed Kelly takes it as well as she does. Because if I'm 22 years old and someone says that shit to me, I'm dead.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
So let's okay, so
Yeah, let's
now should
go.
we go on to the next slide?
yep.
Let's do it.
Theming.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and start with an easy one in Tagi versus Pagong and kind of the
Yeah.
philosophies of the two
Yes.
different tribes and how they compare and contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Tagi and Pagong, I think it's interesting because they talk about, like, they clearly know to a degree what's going on in the other tribes. If you watch the season, it's very clear someone is telling them, like, oh, this is what's going on there. This is what's going on there. And they're kind of two tribes that are on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of how the game should go.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. It's because those four people got together and decided that Nuance is the way to go about it. The Tagi tribe feels a lot less like a family, I think, than the
Yes.
Pagongs do.
Yeah.
The Pagongs are like they're all like hanging out and they all like care about each other a lot and they play games and stuff. And the Tagis, it's always like, oh, this person's doing this shit. I don't like it. It's a big contrast between those two things when you
Yeah,
see
and
the
I think
trend.
that's a big like for Pagong. That's basically because they kick off BB first, and then basically everybody is in like a other than Gretchen, who's just so nice, everybody's in like a 7-year window. They're all almost the same age.
Yeah.
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 yeah, we get that old versus young thing really, really quick. And even
Hmm.
like, Kelly's in the Tagi 4, but we get multiple comments from Richard and Sue being like, wow, she's very mature for her age. She's not like the other girls. Or she's like,
Well, the
pretty
the
much.
the old versus young is obviously its own theming. Even though we could talk about like obviously the second episode is called the generation gap for a reason, and I really love the way that they contrast how BB fits in with how Rudy chooses to fit in too. Obviously, there's just like so
Yeah.
much richness going on there.
Exactly. Like you go from Rudy saying like, if it was up to me, they'd all be doing this, but there's more of them than there is of me. I'm the one that has to fit in.
Yeah.
And then BB is just like, you guys aren't doing shit. Fuck you. And then gets voted out.
If
And then
there's
He
if
Rudy
there's a
quits.
falls to
way
third.
that I can make an escape route for myself that is ethical, then I will do it. And it's like, what are you talking about, ethical?
That's such
That's
a great
awesome.
speech. And he calls it
I
like, should we really consider trying to win this amenity challenge?
Immunity challenge.
Divinity
Like, it's so peak.
No, and he calls
BB
like,
is
yeah,
BB
yeah,
is phenomenal.
yeah. We'll get to the whole BB thing later, but it's so the whole thing is about the whole Tagi versus Pagong thing. This is really where the fan base just completely, at least in my opinion, the main fan base completely misunderstands the season. And we've talked a little bit about it before, but there's the whole philosophy because Tagi ends up, winning is like, oh, Tagi was always going to win because Pagong just did not know how to play the game, which, like,
No.
the whole thing about this whole war between the Tagi and the Pagong sides is that they both have completely different philosophies of playing the game. It's not that one side wasn't playing the game, it's the way they go
Yeah.
about the playing of the game that really makes it so intriguing. And
Yeah. Like, even take someone like Greg, for example, who and we see multiple times Gretchen or other castaways, Richard catches on to it, where they're like, wow, this guy's pretending not to play the game, but he's playing the game in his own way. Him trying not to take things seriously, this, and that. He's exerting his influence. but just through a
Yeah.
different way than someone like a Richard or a Sue exerts
Yeah.
their influence.
And even Greg says he's like, "Yeah, I know what Richard Hatch is doing. I know that he's what he's trying like again, Greg in his final confessional before his boot tribal, like he's like, "Yeah, I clearly know what is happening and how the game is going to go down. I just don't give a shit."
Yeah.
If it happens one more time, maybe.
Yeah,
Theming
and
wise, it's also like this whole season is basically a philosophical question or multiple philosophical questions about like Kyle said earlier, like what would you do for $1 million? Or like, where is your line? Like in terms of theming, like generally, that's just such a strong theme throughout the entire season where basically
exactly.
every player at some point questions or has to question, hey, should I do this for the money or should I do this to live longer in the game and potentially give myself a better chance? Or, what is this person doing and am I okay with that? And,
Hmm.
Yeah.
do I want to live with them? Not even just like, oh,
Yeah,
do I want to work with them? Do I want to be in their alliance? And it's like, do I want to live with this person on my island any longer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just
and
saying I'm with someone.
that's what really made the show so popular with so many people at the time.
yeah, and again, obviously, Tagi wins out because they're the ones that are willing to cross what I guess is established as the line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the
Yes.
older tribe, and a lot of times older people, they have a stronger sense of themselves.
Hmm.
Like everyone contemplates stuff and thinks through stuff, and you see ethical dilemmas with older people too. But it's, a lot of these younger players, your Kellys, your Colleens that are pontificating about, wow, this is fucked up.
Yeah.
Like this is a really mean thing we're doing. And
Yeah. Something that
I've always been curious on if Burnett or any of the producers expected this to not be a tournament of champions in a way. This wasn't a big gladiator fight like I think a lot of people thought it was. Going in even like couple episodes into the merge, you have multiple castaways saying whoever wins this isn't gonna fucking deserve it.
Yeah, that's
They're
one of
not gonna be a good person.
my favorite lines of the whole season. Maybe my favorite line of the whole season at the end where Dr. Shaw is voting for the winner. He says that he says, I think this has devolved from a contest of who is the most deserving to a question of who is the least objectionable. Which
So
I
funny.
love. It's so sick.
Yeah, because
And
like
I mean,
that
I
was
think that's
really
the whole
I think
show.
that's what the season is. It is
That's what the
you're
show is.
watching, yeah,
and
you're
what Sean
watching
was saying
evolve from
was
who
what the
deserves to win the most to who
yeah
is
Even yeah,
deserves to lose the
yeah
least.
even now, fucking we put that now. It's like, yeah, Kyle was less objectionable than Joe and Eva.
Yeah,
the
and
jury, yeah.
that's yeah. I mean, that's why the winners win. Yeah,
And
Yeah, a
like
lot of times, they like to pretend, there's so much other stuff, but it really just comes down to that many times. And, there's different evolutions. We'll get through that through the various seasons. But yeah, it's a lot of the times you gotta pick someone in
yeah.
in a final two, you're gonna get your hands dirty.
You can't
And
vote for nobody.
oh, yeah, you can't vote for nobody, and there's no distraction. You gotta stand on your fucking vote. There's no idols or twists or whatever. It's just like you have to live with your decisions on
Yep.
this and the name that you're willing to metaphorically kill their chances of winning $1 million
Yeah,
and on all that. And that's just so raw. You have to stand by your actions, even if you pretend not to, like Kelly does, like Sean pretends not to at certain points
but they're still
where
choosing something.
exactly it,
They still have to. They like at the end of the day, you can say you're going to be voting alphabetically, but you still know you're going to be writing Colleen's name down.
yeah,
You're still choosing to do that.
you're the deciding
Yep.
vote for Jenna to go home.
Yeah,
And he
It's
he knows it. He knew damn well that
yeah. He was just
He's well
pretending.
aware.
he's lying through his teeth when he says, "Oh, if it changes something, if it was going to make a difference on the impact of the results, I'll change my strategy."
no.
No,
It's like, all right, man.
yeah, all right, man.
Yeah, you see, of course, both sides dog on him, but like Colleen and Jervis, and them, they're all just dogging on Sean because they're like, and Sue, it's like he has no balls. He's a puss. is what they say, because it's like he's not standing on business. He is pretending like he's better. He's telling everyone to vote their conscience, and he's like, "Oh, alphabetical," you know.
Yeah, he's not voting his conscience.
Yeah, not at all.
So
All right,
yeah,
Mike. What's
Yeah.
what's
Then we
next?
have secrets, lore, and conspiracies.
Yes, this is gonna be a fun one.
I
let's
think
go on
there's
forever.
a
Oh my
very
god.
big one we should mention first
Yeah,
Oh
about a
yeah,
certain
whole.
Miss Stacy Stillman.
Yep.
BB is
For
still
those,
alive.
BB's
Oh,
still
Number
alive.
one,
For those who
BB is
don't
in Cuba.
know,
BB is
he's in
frozen next
Argentina with
to.
Tupac. Yeah.
No, BB is actually frozen next to Walt Disney and Ted Williams' head.
Yeah, they're the
No,
greatest
the
minds of the 20th century all get to be frozen, and BB is one of them. Thank
BB
you
is
for
like
your help in the George H.W. Bush administration,
yeah,
BB.
BB is like side note, BB is just like a genuinely evil human being.
he's not a good dude.
Yeah, the last public appearance of BB, actually, for people that don't know, was if I remember correctly, I think it was when Mitt Romney was running for president. I think he was a speaker at one of the rallies.
That's awesome.
Just kind of a sick way to go out, I guess,
such a
if you're fucking
BB,
BB.
such a BB thing.
No, but it's we should talk about. So famously, if you don't know, Rudy was pretty much set to be voted out in episode 3,
Yeah.
and
Following
the
a very
producers,
distinct pattern of
yes,
old person, last old person, you know?
yeah, and the producers went up to Dirk. Says they told him to vote for Stacy. Sean said they told him to consider his options in voting
Vote
and did
his
not give him any
conscience.
specific
That's what he
directions.
said.
Yeah,
Vote his
vote his
conscience.
conscience. But there was a big lawsuit, and it was settled out of court, which usually means that they did it. um,
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah,
Yeah.
we give Mark Burnett a lot of props, but his biggest mistake with season 1 was casting a fucking lawyer on the show.
yeah, she
Why would you
also
do
got
that?
them money for the reunion. They weren't going to
Yeah,
get paid to do the reunion. Then she was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, we're the fucking Sal here. Give us money."
yeah,
yeah. It's like the advertising space was so fucking expensive at the time. Like, it was being reported how expensive Survivor advertisement space was.
Yeah,
And she was like, "Nope, we're making money now. We did not that's not one of the episodes that we signed up to be on." So,
yeah.
she kinda unionized everyone, and, Richard
And
kinda
Richard Hatch was the
snitched.
buster.
and then Richard
Yeah,
Hatch busted her.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
We
man.
want to know a little bit about his reputation. And then another kind of to add on to the conspiracy is Rudy's connection to Mark Burnett before the season even began. Where Rudy, we mentioned Eco Challenge earlier. Rudy being a past Navy SEAL and having done a lot of very badass stuff in a lot of different locations in the world, was Mark Burnett consulted with a lot of Navy SEALs on how to make Eco Challenge, and the challenges there, and Rudy was one of those people. And so he's the only recruit. He's the OG recruit, the OG Mactor, Rudy.
I
Yes,
think Colleen was like told by the production team that she should apply.
If I remember
Which
with Colleen, I think she went with like her sister or something like that to an
yeah, her
open
sister
audition.
applied, and they're like, "You should also apply." That's what it was.
Yeah. Yes. So like it yeah, they didn't
God,
like
whoever told her
know
to apply,
Colleen.
holy
They
shit!
just saw her
By the way,
being cool as fuck and were like, "All right, come be on our show."
Yeah.
Rudy
Great
was
choice.
someone Burnett actively had worked with and had got Burnett, Rudy had gotten a paycheck from Burnett before. And that was a pretty big deal in the controversy too, because it's like, wow, there's a thing of ethics. And the other 15 castaways, part of their contracts was they had to say, oh, we never knew anyone that worked with CBS or with Mark Burnett's production company, no one with SEG,
yeah.
um, no family that or friends or any of that. And that
And then
it
fucking
came
Rudy
out that
just gets to waltz on.
yeah,
Mhm.
and it looks like Burnett saved his buddy.
Yep. Which
yeah,
like worth
and
it.
Which probably.
and I will
Yeah,
say
good call.
another thing is that one of the other big things is that they also kind of knew that if all three of the old people went out immediately, they kind of figured that they would probably lose a lot of the old people that would have watched the first two episodes, or
Yeah.
It's 3
And old
episodes.
people watch a lot of TV.
Yeah,
and
that
also
was an
like
untapped
it would
market for
also
reality TV. Like we were saying, there was
it would
no
also
young people on Real World.
it would also like low key kind of rule out old people being on seasons of Survivor from then on.
Yeah, because who's
Mhm.
gonna
So
apply?
It
if
would
they
be
start
hard
seeing
to,
it
yeah.
first?
yeah. So did
Oh, no Mad
Survivor
Dog
yeah,
if they
did
don't bring
exactly.
Stacey Stillman.
Did Survivor rig Stacey Stillman out of the game? Yes. Were
Yeah.
they right
Yes.
for doing so? Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Because the other
I
thing
think
is
the
that
internet made more
just-
I
money.
do think that if Stacey survived, the season still could go in an interesting way, but it definitely would not have been as good as the season that we ended up having.
Yeah.
Oh no, because Rudy makes it to the finale.
Yeah,
It's also-
because Rudy's
it's also
just a
thing where, like,
star.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
also
Another
a thing where,
one.
like, Rudy is just so clearly entertaining and fantastic television that, like, even if the first two boots were, I don't know, Jenna and Colleen, like the two youngest people, they're probably still rigging Stacy out of the game because they're like, we need this
Probably.
guy.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's not to say that Stacey Stillman is like inherently bad TV. No, like Stacey's
No,
good.
she's great. She's
She's
just not
good,
rooting.
yeah.
No one's rooting.
Yeah.
All 16 people, we're gonna get into all of them, and I
Oh,
like
yeah, I
all
think we're-
16. I think they all serve a purpose.
Yeah, I think we're all positive on the entire cast, basically.
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the only season where I like the entire cast.
I have everyone.
Maybe
top
Marquesas.
I put Africa there too, but yeah,
I would as well. Those three.
Yeah, I don't know. Jesse, I don't get much out of for Africa, but
her
she's
lips,
in
man.
one episode and she's sick. So
Yeah.
All right,
the only
let's-
thing I
let's
get out
talk-
of Jesse on Africa is one of my best friends was watching that season, and he was like, she texted me this cop on the on the Baran tribe, and then a link to the song "Mrs. Officer" by Lil Wayne.
Oh, fire! Beat it like a cop.
Just a throwback to the Lil Wayne discussion we had in the voice call right before we started the recording of
Yeah,
this.
We
shout
were
out to the
talking
Hot
Wayne. We
Boys.
were talking about how much we all loved the Carter Six.
Yeah, yeah. We were talking about Birdman, just an
Ugh.
inspiration. What a great guy! Truly the
I
Mark
don't think he's a
Burnett
good
of
guy.
of Southern hip
The
hop.
Mark
I'll
Burnett of the
say it.
music
I don't think
industry.
Birdman's a good guy. I think
He
he's
is.
not.
Wow, you don't say.
You
We'll
don't
see if he
say,
gets his
yeah.
day of reckoning.
Yeah,
Another thing I want
Um,
to talk about is Jervis X.
Yes,
I
Jervis
really
X.
wanted to talk about Jervis
That's a
X.
fun one.
Mhm.
Basically, for those who don't know, obviously everyone wanted to see spoilers. Everyone wanted to know who won before it was revealed. And so people went to the website and someone data mined it and realized that every contestant, when they got voted out, they had a little X next to them. And every contestant had an alternate picture of them with the X, except for Jervis. So it was a big spoiler at the time that Jervis wins because he doesn't have an X. And to those who have watched the season, Jervis comes in 7th and he does not win. And it is one
Poor
of
Target.
the multiple poor Target and sitting duck. But yeah, it is one of the multiple fake spoilers that they peppered around
Yeah, they were
at the time of the season
they were
two.
putting those things everywhere.
Yeah,
if
like
you
I think
watch
there was
those,
like
previously ons, you could see so many of them.
yeah, there was
Shout out
like
to Borneo.
there's like an image of like a final four of like I think it's like Jervis, Sean, Colleen, and Rudy. If I'm remembering correctly?
I think it's
It was
Jervis,
something
Sean,
like
Colleen,
that.
and Kelly. But yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, something great. There was plenty of real, like accidental spoilers that got out too.
yeah, like
Just
Rudy with
due
a
to-
beard in the
Yeah,
intro.
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
entire
that
intro,
was
they're
the
just
real
showing
bad
them with
one.
full beards.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that, like, the
Awesome.
awesome thing about all the fake spoilers is that they put plenty of, whether it's intentional or not, they put plenty of actual spoilers in the show. That if people were paying attention to that, they might have caught all those spoilers.
Yeah,
Yep.
like the winner saying in episode 1, "I'm gonna win the season. I'm the winner."
Yeah,
Yep.
I think when Jeff says only one will survive or whatever at the beginning vote, it's a shot of Richard that they're showing.
Oh, they still do
Yes,
that, by the
that
way.
is
If you
correct.
want to be an Edgic guy,
Yeah.
when you watch Survivor 49, they're just going to say only one will survive. And the person that it cuts to, the winner is on that tribe. That goes back to, I think, Karamoan.
Yeah.
So if you want to be the Edgic king, you can follow that.
Yeah,
Yes.
even
and,
seasons
you
before
know,
that, the Sepia, I think Sophie, they use
Yeah,
that
it's
same
we,
trick with.
we
it's
by the way,
very
we
rare they break that rule.
by the way, we totally have absolutely zero clue who wins Survivor 49.
Yeah, that's the long one to do it because it's pretty clearly Savannah, but you know.
Yeah.
No idea at all.
No,
Now slow down.
it's the MCU producer.
Slow down. Riz God might be the winner.
Dude,
I'd
isn't
say
it so
80%
great?
Savannah, 20% Riz God. That's my breakdown.
But yeah,
Riz got fucking Riz got among the ranks of Richard Hatch. Like,
Y-
Well,
what
he's
are we
better. He's
doing?
gonna be a better character than Richard Hatch.
Well, you know
Oh
what? We
yeah.
won't even entertain that. And I say let's go on to what I think is the second biggest conspiracy theory, which is Kelly's win streak at the end and whether or
Oh
not she was
yes.
being helped.
oh yes,
She
yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
because
major
Richard
speaking of
Hatch
yeah.
Richard.
himself claims that
Yeah.
He
she was
still does.
exchanging
By the
oral
way,
sex for
is
sandwiches.
yeah. By the way, is Hatch a reliable narrator on this?
No, this one I
Probably
don't.
No.
not. I don't believe this rumor conspiracy that Kelly was blowing the producers
Yeah.
Yeah,
for the
because like,
Lars.
In all fairness, I don't remember ever hearing Richard say the part about the sexual favors.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's
because
said the other
Richard,
parts. I
because
don't
in it,
think he's ever
okay,
said the sexual favor.
yeah, because in
Yeah.
Richard's Reddit AMA, there's somebody asks him about that, and he says that he thought that Kelly was getting helped, but if he said that if anybody said that it was sexual, then they're like, trying to put words in his mouth or whatever. They're blowing it out of proportion or something.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those were definitely
I think
parts of the rumors.
he also claims that that's why he did not pay his taxes on the money
Yeah,
because they promised that they would be doing that.
Yeah, the conditional if you win, we'll pay your taxes. One of the like, sure, that's weird. Well, like, and I kind of do feel like Richard gets a bit of a bum end because this was just such an unprecedented thing for someone to get $1
Yeah.
million off a TV show.
Mhm.
But Richard's also really sketch. None of the other because I think Aris was the first winner after that whole controversy, and
Yeah.
it's like none of the other 11 before then had any problems paying their taxes on their winnings. So
exactly.
Mhm.
yeah,
Awesome. But I speaking of Hatch and just like fun stories, I know Funky, you uploaded a clip of it to YouTube. I forget what show, but it's
Becker
yeah,
with
Becker. It's Hatch
Ted
making a
Danson.
yeah, it's Hatch making a cameo appearance on Becker, and he's a patient, and he's like, I dealing with some stuff. I was starving on an island for a month. The doctor's like, yo, what the fuck? And he's like, yeah, I won. And he's like, what did you win? He's like, yeah. And keep in mind, the doctor's just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like eating rats and shit. And then Hatch is like, yeah, I won $1 million. And the doctor's immediately like, okay, where do I sign up?
Yeah, the pop culture reference the way Survivor hits pop culture is insane.
Yeah,
A, a
I'm
personal example is
I got one too.
the school that I went to growing up, the elementary school I went to growing up. It had multiple reconstructions. I went to a school that I guess for historical reasons it was the school the minorities went to during the times of segregation. So it was made very cheaply. So it was always having problems. And so we never really had we'd have field days, but a lot of the times we didn't even have anywhere to do it because we had all these construction workers and big vehicles out by the schools. So we would have to do indoor field day multiple times. And every time it was Survivor themed. We all
Yeah,
had our little like buffs. We all got to do little challenges. They weren't as mean and they didn't make us vote each other off or anything like that. I think we did get a vote, but it was like for like what flavor of ice cream you want or some bullshit, you know.
yeah.
It's
I
but yeah, that it was huge. So much Survivor
yeah.
thing is in pop culture at the time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was at my friend's house and I was bringing up, oh, I watched. By the way, like all of my friends in real life are like, you're a fucking idiot for liking that show. No,
Fake.
yeah. Everyone is just like, yeah, Mike's really weirdly into Survivor. It's like kind of whatever. And I'm bringing it up around my friend. And he's like, this is the dumbest shit that like I've ever heard you talk about. This is in like 2019, by the way. And then his mom walks in the room, and I'm talking about Survivor, and she's like, "Oh, that's Richard Hatch and Rudy and
Y-
Boston Rob." And I was like, "Yeah, it is."
mhm.
And then Rudy died 2 days after that.
Oh,
Oh no.
here's a really good one. The popularization of the word queer came from Rudy. That
I do.
word, it was like a really anachronistic, I
The
guess,
reclamation.
homophobic slur that
It was
no
old.
one used, and then because Rudy was popular, it became a word people started using again as a homophobic slur,
Yeah,
and then it
My
and
was
and,
God.
and
reclaimed.
Yeah, we had Queer Eye for the straight guy,
Yeah,
like,
I
pop
got
up after
reclaimed
that.
because of that.
Yeah, it was, crazy. And, you pointed on something interesting there,
Mhm.
Mike, that I do wanna address before we forget it, is that reality TV was not seen as high art. I know the 5 of us, we kinda discuss it as such and sometimes as,
Yeah.
but that was
Specifically the
not
first 10 seasons.
something many people were discussing. There was a big backlash against reality TV and, "Oh, this is fake, this is cheap, this is, not
Trashy.
real, trashy." Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. And there's like, I see the points and the arguments and,
There's
but,
definitely shows that are.
yeah, there's plenty that are. There are many
Yeah.
Survivor imitators out there
Yeah. I feel like a
that,
lot of
To
people.
to that.
And
be
then there are
clear,
all those shows that are like,
if somebody called Survivor high art now, I would laugh them out of the room. But
oh
like
yeah.
Yeah.
the original
Right.
seasons are definitely high art.
Again, it becomes a
Yeah,
game show, and it's a solid enough game show. It becomes a game show around season 11.
yeah.
But yeah. So like I was gonna say the thing, but we were talking about the how reality TV's backlash, but like yeah, a lot of people thought this show was fake at the time, and like you don't that whole backlash doesn't really end until I think probably around like where Scoopin falls in the fire.
Yeah, I think that's the
Yeah,
first moment where people were like, "Oh shit, it's real."
Yeah.
mhm. Yeah,
Because if you're faking it, you're not going to really burn the guy's hands off.
yeah. And even past that, like, the entertainment business had a strong reaction to it. Wow, now reality TV is taking jobs away from actors, from screenwriters, from this, and
Yeah,
that. It
because
completely broke the
Yeah.
system.
yeah,
I
You
because
had,
Mhm.
like, Susan
Yeah.
Sarandon, like, saying,
Mhm.
"Oh, why would anyone watch this shit?"
yeah, because a
You
lot of the thing is
you had
that
a
Back on
lot of people saying
yeah.
stuff like
one
Back
of
that.
the
on
big
the,
reasons that reality TV got so big was because there was a big writer strike at the time.
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Which
Back,
went
That's
full
why there's a big
circle to the
resurgence
most recent
now,
one.
yeah,
actually.
That's
back
Yep.
why
back on
Why
Survivor
the
is
reality TV
longer
is big
now.
so much.
uh-huh.
That's why it's 90 minutes.
Yep, the writer's strike. Back on the, like,
No, it's because
thinking
it's
it's fake.
better to be 90 minutes.
No, but back on the, like, whole thinking it's fake thing. Obviously, people my age were not around, like, when it happened, so obviously people know, "Oh, Survivor, it's a reality TV show, of course it's fake." And freshman year, I'm, chatting with an old friend about it, and they were like, "This shit is so fucking fake, they give you food and showers." And I was like, no." And then I showed them the picture of, the Spencer weight loss, and they were still like, yeah, it's editing." And then I showed them the clip of Scoop and falling in the fire, and they didn't react. They stopped telling me it was fake.
Yeah,
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 that was the
exactly.
that's
best
kind of
PR Mark
undeniable.
Burnett could have ever got.
Yeah,
That's why you want somebody to die, because then there's no case that's fake.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah, they'd make enough money to, pay that insurance claim
yeah.
for
Oh,
sure.
And
100%. Oh,
even to this
100%.
day, like, you sign the waiver, and it's like, yeah, it's like kind of not on us if you die.
Yeah.
Like, you could,
Um.
even to this day, you could technically still die on Survivor. It just
Ooh.
hasn't happened.
Speaking of waivers and NDAs, another one is, we talked about the Stacey Silman lawsuit, but there were changes to that, um, contract afterwards, where
Yes,
Yeah.
there
the
were. I remember
language
that.
got a lot tighter, the way it was classified, "This isn't a game show" kinda deal. There were things in it to say the producers have ultimate discretion to do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
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 So,
There's stuff in
when
there about
people
how.
yeah, they say, "Oh, there's no way," because you meet these really hardcore reality TV fans that want to not believe anything, and to me, I don't think they think as critically about the show as most people as they should. But anyways, yeah, there's people that have always the good faith reads into the producers and all that, and oh, they would never do that. They would
Yeah, they
never
would.
hide an idol right where someone sleeps and have a sign that says down. That was just always there, you know. And it's like, it's there's nothing that makes them not be able to do
Yeah.
that.
It's like
Did did
it's
they
like
impl
just very funny because the producers are very clearly the most evil thing about the entire
Oh
like
yeah.
show.
Reality
Well, that and
television
alliances.
producers. Yeah,
Yeah, like, the
raw.
only person involved with Survivor that's probably more evil than Mark Burnett is Silas.
Or
Yeah.
Jeff Probst.
Oh.
Maybe Pascal.
Caspel's
Hey,
close.
that's a fair
Phoebe's
and
Phoebe's
honorable
close.
judge.
Just a,
Yo,
a
Oh,
keep
Yul
putting
racist
the
Kwan
judge of
judge.
the
up
Marquesa
there
squad.
too. You can't forget
Have
about
that
Yul
Marquesa
Kwan.
squad.
Yeah,
But yeah,
spoiler alert for when we get to the Cook Islands podcast.
But we all
Unlike
love it.
unlike a lot of the Survivor, the r/Survivor fan base, we don't have the
We don't have a single
most
person on the cast below an 8. They're all great.
but yeah,
we don't have
Yeah.
the greatest things to say about Yul Kwan as a person.
But yeah, what I was gonna say, we one more thing that we should touch on before we move on to the next segment is the movies that some of these cast members starred in afterwards. We have
The animal.
Colleen
The
being
Colleen.
the animal with Rob
comedian of all
Schneider.
time.
Colleen's
That movie
movie
was
flick with
so
Rob Schneider.
That movie was so bad, it literally has forced Colleen into hiding for the rest of her life.
Dude, between that and that 70s show, I think she just had such a fucking terrible time that she said,
Yeah.
fuck the spotlight.
I was gonna say, I don't think she cares that she was in a shitty movie. I think her experience working with Rob Schneider was so awful that she just left. She left the public eye forever.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
and
I
you have to
Rob Schneider
remember
was
some of those
so
people on
unfunny.
the set of that 70s show. Like, that
Yeah.
is not a good group of people
Yeah,
that was on the set.
with all the
yeah.
stuff that came out about Danny Masterson afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah, and even
Ay.
even Aston Kutcher and Mila Kunis have their issues.
Yeah, the dude that played Fez has his own share of stuff too, and who knows? Yeah, Hollywood, she got disgusted by it and left. Is
Yep.
I think the common thing
You
people
know what?
think. I don't even know if we have
Good for her.
confirmation of that, but shout outs to her. It's
Yeah.
awesome that she did, and I think more people should just take their 15 minutes and
Yep.
let them die eventually. You know.
Yep.
But
She
yeah, and then that
wonder if
other
she
film
had
that
one of
Jervis is in. Um,
Surviving Survivor or something. No. What is it
Oh, the
called?
one with George Wendt. Rest in
Yeah.
peace, by the way.
yeah, the one where he like comes across Jervis and is like, "Oh yeah, I was stranded on an island once."
Yeah,
I'm
and
pulling up Letterboxd. I could not remember the name of this for the life of me.
while you do that, let me also
Jervis,
say that some of these people were like legitimate like celebrities, like not
Stars.
like
They were
Hatch,
stars.
total
Rudy,
A like
Jervis,
A-listers, but Hatch, Jervis, Sue, Colleen,
Hatch.
Rudy.
Okay.
Hatch was supposed to host the season premiere of Saturday Night Live, and then CBS was like, no.
Dude, Will
They
Smith.
He was
nope.
that big. Richard Hatch was like such a big thing at the time that like it
It's
is
called
insane.
Stealing a Survivor, by the way. Stealing a Survivor.
Yeah,
Okay,
which
all right.
didn't become an issue until about like 4 months ago.
Shoot.
Jervis
Will
Jervis is
Smith's production company called Jervis for interviews and to take tape of him and stuff like that. People
yeah,
were getting real opportunities.
yeah.
Soon people realized, oh wow, these people actually aren't talented in
They
that
aren't
sense. You know?
actors.
They let Sue interview George Bush,
Yeah.
I remember
which
Yeah,
is
Sue interviewed
And
George Bush,
even
dog.
more important,
Presidential
yeah,
candidate George W. Bush.
yep.
and they let Sue and Jervis, as well as Alicia and Jeff Varner from season
Watch
2
the
into the
Big
Big
Brother.
Brother house. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
By the way, Jervis is still acting, by the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was looking for Stealing a Survivor, he was in a movie called Mancation, and he was in a movie called Straight versus Butch. So
He
those are probably
Rudy
it's
had a
probably
book.
good.
I'm
Rudy
looking
had an action
simply
figure.
Straight versus Butch might might not be a movie.
I'm looking at simply his Wikipedia page. He's been in
Sorry,
shit as
Straight
recent.
and Butch.
Yeah, he's been in movies as recently as a couple of years ago. It's like
Oh yeah, Stealing a Survivor is from 2020.
He was in that Rob
it is, but
Cesternino movie he directed, right? I
oh
think Jenna Lewis was the
oh
lead in
god
that.
oh
What was
god
that
the Rob
called?
Cesternino flick.
I watched it back in the day. What the fuck was
yeah,
that?
who
Yeah,
The
is
whenever you
Scorn?
guys get to the Amazon podcast, you
yeah,
should definitely talk about that film more in depth. But
Yeah.
it was
The
Jenna
Scorn?
Lewis, Johnny Fairplay,
Yeah.
Ethan, Jenna Maraska, uh,
Trishelle and Tanya
Jervis,
from The Challenge.
Burton, fucking Burton.
Oh yeah, real world.
And Erica Landon's in this. Scott Lang.
I need
Diane
to
Henry. Holy shit.
I need to watch The Scorned.
yeah,
It's probably
Yeah,
good.
we'll do a group watch of that. To
Yeah.
get
It's
back
probably a really
to
good
a
movie.
bit more of the to get back to a little bit more of the conspiracies on the first season of Survivor. Another big one is the tribes alternating who wins the challenge and who gets to go to tribal council each episode, which for a long time this was the only season where it ping-ponged
I think until South
the
Pacific, right?
entire time.
Yes.
I think I know South Pacific it does
And
ping pong. I think that's the first one
that
where
was something a lot of people were like, huh, isn't that convenient?
Yeah, I think it was just
Because
a
wouldn't it
matter.
have
I
been
think it was.
boring? Yeah,
Yeah, I
South
think it
Pacific,
was
I
just.
think, is the next time it happened, 20 later.
Yeah, yeah. Though I think
Yeah, since
I
Borneo
don't.
where it
I wouldn't
ping
really
pong.
think
Some
that they
oh,
did. I don't think that that was like an intentional thing, though. I think they were just voting out the right people. And also, like again, it's not
I
impossible for that to happen, especially when it's only six challenges. So it's like
mhm.
okay.
Yeah,
I
I think
do
that's
think
just
that
the
was a
season where they
part of that
cared most
Stacey
about
Stillman
equal
lawsuit
tribes
too.
thing.
Oh, that
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong about that because
Was of like yeah, strategically placing challenges that they knew um Poggy was gonna win or Pagong was gonna win, or I think the most one that's the most eyebrow raising is that the one that Toggy needs to win to get to the merge even,
where they
which
let
they
Rudy sit out,
barely
yeah.
win, but yeah, they just have a random sit out, so Rudy doesn't have to
Yeah.
do the the physical competition.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's
And
yeah, that
Toggy
makes
barely
sense.
squeaks it out, and there's no reason for Rudy to sit that out unless they were like, no, we need to try to get these tribes even so
yeah.
we can create as much uncertainty as possible.
Yeah.
I
There's
will say,
there's also
I
like
think
a
experts will probably
there's
win.
also a reward challenge that they don't show that is the same challenge that is most notably known for the time that Pearl Islands does it with Andrew Savage pretty much carrying the entire load on his back and giving Morgan that
Yeah,
win
shoulder the
Yeah.
load.
with
Slight
they do it with Richard and
it's
Joel. Um
yeah, it's like they do an Outback with Mike Scoopin and Colby.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the first time they do it, and it's the same setup. And Joel beats Richard. And that was, I think, the second challenge ever, which was their first reward challenge. They don't even show it
Yeah, they
in
don't even
Survivor.
show it, yeah.
Wow. Do we have any more, or do we want to move on to
I
what's
think
kind
that's
of here for going over the cast?
yeah, I
I
think that's
think
all we have.
that is the meat of them. I
Yeah, that's
could
all I have
kind
to
of go
say.
on forever because there's a shit ton that comes with
Yeah.
Borneo, but maybe we'll do a
Oh, there's
fun
so many.
like iceberg
Yeah, in
episode in the
Iceberg,
future where we
yeah.
go
Oh
through
yeah.
the
I mean,
Yeah,
crazier ones.
if that's something you'd be interested in, leave a comment. We could absolutely do that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
leave a
do have like an
comment.
iceberg thing planned a little bit, and this season is by far the season with the most secrets, lore, and conspiracies.
And also,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
if you know of any conspiracies, comment them as well, and we can discuss
Yeah.
them. We'll look into it. We'll see the validity of how we'll do the whole 9 years.
If you
Please,
if
please
you came
comment. We'll
to
definitely
look at
enjoy
us,
that.
if you came to listen to us talk about the cast, and we're like solidly an hour in.
Well,
All right.
we're there. We're there. I think. We're about to
One last part, y'all,
Oh,
is let's talk about the name Survivor Borneo, which is a After Effects thing.
that is
Yes.
the
Where
third name the season had. Yeah, originally it was just
yeah,
called Survivor.
And then it
yeah,
was
it was
Survivor Palau Tiga, and then Survivor Borneo, which is like I guess
yeah.
stuck.
I think
Yeah,
that's
that's the one that
canonized on
stuck.
All Stars. Yeah,
Yes, All Stars and when the DVDs came out was
yeah.
like around the time where they finally gave it that official subtitle.
But
Yeah,
originally it
and
was
like the
Survivor,
DVD,
and
like the DVD has this like ridiculously obviously plastered Borneo letters on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
I
Yeah,
think
it's
that Outback, while it was being filmed, they were calling it Survivor 2.
oh yeah, that's something you saw all the time in
Yeah,
articles and stuff. Survivor 2, Survivor
and
3.
Yeah,
And,
going
and
full
and
circle
and
because now it's Survivor 49. They just number them anyway.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit of history with it. And I'll go a little bit deeper into that when we get to Outback. But let's get to this cast.
the good cast. Yeah,
So yeah, So basically, how the format for the cast is going to work is we are going again. I collected cast rankings from the four people in this call and also myself, and then these are going to be ranked based on, I guess, our character rankings. Um,
Yeah, we
so
averaged out our
we are
placements.
not necessarily starting with Sonya. So we're gonna go over all
I'd say
that.
we're
We're gonna
almost definitely not starting with Sonya. I'd be
Yeah,
shocked
we
if
are
she's
not
left.
starting with Sonya.
yeah.
I'm gonna cry
And
if
then
it's
I'm
the
gonna
person that I'm afraid it is, but we'll see.
and then I'm
I
It's
have a
not going to
prediction.
be.
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. But
I think
then
it's Stacy. I'm assuming.
I would
assume
say
so
it's
too.
definitely Stacy, I think, first.
I'll get to it, but we're gonna go in order, and also I would like to mention our good friend Reg and his 0 to 10 polls that I'm gonna just quickly go
Yeah.
over.
We also have the average placement of them. He has a polling system. You can rate every character on season 1 to 10, or 0 to
Yeah.
10.
And please
And
do it. They are open to anyone who wants to do
Yeah.
them.
yeah,
Anyone who wants to take the
Yeah.
time to do them, we'll
they're
have them
in
linked. And
Make sure to put
in the
that in the
links.
description.
Yeah.
Yep, that will be in the description.
And so basically, he's got everyone to rate every character
On a
and just
0 to 10
average out their
scale.
ratings.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have their placement on that average as well.
Yeah, their average and their placement within the cast and within all fucking hell 875 characters ever to be on the show.
Man,
Yeah.
Crazy amount.
I will
875 characters and they're all good. That's crazy.
yeah. I will
dude, Aubrey
spoil
4.0.
for those who don't know, I will spoil only one Borneo person is in the top 10 of all time for
Oh,
Should
boo.
be like 8 or 9 of them for
Oh
being real.
yeah, I'd be fine with like 7, 8.
yeah.
I'd be fine with 10.
They
Just
should
a
at
merge
least
cast
have
of
2.
Borneo.
I feel like we need room for Shaheen in that top 10.
Shaheen's top 20, but he's not top 10.
Dude.
Yeah, I
Shit,
have
can you-
around like are we saying top 50 or 100?
No, 10.
I have 10. I
Oh,
have
10?
11 Borneo people in my top 100.
I have
Okay,
3
yeah.
Borneo people in my top 10.
Yeah.
I
I think I
I
have
have all
I think
10
I
in my
have
top
yeah,
100.
I have the big 2 that in my top 10, but there's a lot of them that are in my top 50 and there's even more in the top 100 because this is
Yeah,
just phenomenal
I
I have
season.
have
Richie and Colleen
I have
top 10.
I have 3 in my top 10 of all time.
Yeah. We'll go into all
We'll
the
go. We'll
fun
talk about
stats
it.
Yeah, we'll
later.
get into
We'll talk
that.
about
Let's go
that.
ahead
Yeah.
and jump into the cast.
Jump into that at
Finally,
number
here we go.
16. Everyone ranked this person at number 16. It is the woman who sued the show, Stacy Stillman.
Yeah, that she's
Can't-
good. I think averaging a 4.3 out of 10 rating is underselling her.
Yeah.
Stacy is
She's
good.
feisty.
I have her
She's
at a 6.
She
Yeah,
was
I
a
think
cancer survivor. And I
she
think that
was.
was yeah, she is. Like getting onto the show, she had beaten cancer already at 27 years old.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll
that
mention
was
they'll
She's
mention that
definitely
Sonya is a cancer survivor, but they won't mention that Stacy's a cancer survivor.
Yeah, one of the many
they rigged
parallels
her
between
out.
her and Daniel Strunk from 42.
Beautiful.
um
Yeah.
Shout out.
I will get
Shout out
into it.
Daniel. Love that
It
guy.
is crazy that Sonya's occupation on the season is literally just cancer survivor.
That's what
Yeah.
she does professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So she
Stacy
makes
just gets no mention of that.
Yeah. In a
No,
lot of ways, Stacey, like we were saying, is kind of the victim of a rigging that got her out third as the third boot. And as a result, I do think we get some good Stacy moments, but I don't think they make any effort to make us love
They
Stacy or anything
definitely
like
cut
that.
her short. They cut her
Yeah.
short for sure
Yeah.
on
They
purpose.
want you to be happy it's her, not Rudy. And
Yeah,
I think
like
she
it's
does
very
it
clear that like
100%.
it's very clear that Stacy gets the short end of the stick, which I think was the right decision from a TV perspective, but it is still a shame that we didn't get to see more of her because she is still
Yeah.
she shows very strong highlights of being easily one of the more cutthroat people that they casted on this season.
For
People say it's
Immediately,
Rich. She's the real first person to start an alliance.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
That's
she tries to
immediately
get the
they
women
show
involved.
immediately they show
tries
her
to-
trying to get a girls alliance going with Kelly and
Mhm.
Sue, and obviously Sue doesn't go with it because she hates Stacy. But
The
Yeah,
chicks think
and
I'm with
again,
them, but I'm
Sue
not.
is
Yeah.
But I'm
Sue
I
is
not.
will
again
say
not Sue. Stacy is very again, Stacy is very aggressive in wanting Rudy out of the game because
Yeah.
obviously she's kind of bothered by him being, you know, very
Grumpy
much
old guy.
behaviorally an old guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah,
say,
and
I will
Rudy doesn't
say
like
that
her
like
either. She's too prim.
yeah, her and Rudy have a good dynamic for sure. And like when it is unfortunate that she gets cut down for Rudy to stay in the game, which obviously is the right choice from like a TV production perspective, but like them making you hate Stacy more than more than Rudy is characterization in its own right as well. Like there's
Yeah.
definitely a lot of stuff there for her. She's
Yeah.
very clearly a net positive for the season.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah, like
She has her
I would
relationships with
agree.
even like Richard, even,
Yep.
subtle
Yep.
reasons. And we see Richard kind of side-eyeing her, kind of his first showing of,
Yeah.
someone
She has
He was
has the
on to her.
sorry, go
tools.
ahead.
He was on to her. She was competition, and then which led to him targeting her, and then obviously Sue is just like, I don't like her. Rudy is
Because she
like, oh,
doesn't.
she's going for me. I'm gonna go for
Yeah.
her, and then Dirk and Sean are told, yo, you should kind of vote her out instead of Rudy, and
Yeah.
then
I
Yeah.
mean, for somebody who's there only 3 episodes, she has pretty well developed relationships with all 4 of the most important members of the tribe, which is
Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously the Tagi 4.
And
yeah,
she eats the bug. And
she does eat the bug.
like you're saying, she was Kelly's friend. They
Yep.
actively
yeah. Her
have
and
to
Kelly were
put
very close
Kelly
out
back,
there.
mhm.
like back into their good graces in a bit because
Yeah, as Sean says,
were the
oh, when she ate the bug, that's when she really got accepted from the other girls. It's like, what have you been doing this entire time, Sean?
Sean just dropping a completely and just not true statement. It's the goat.
Yeah, that's one of many things that Sean
yeah.
Kenneful.
I think that's the only thing he's ever been wrong about in the entire season.
Yeah. I'm looking at my
Um,
notes for this, and I had rewatched the first 2 episodes of Borneo in like April, and I never got a chance to finish. On Sunday, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna binge through the season of Borneo," and then I haven't gotten to a single episode of it. But I have notes for the first 2 episodes, and my first thing about Stacey Stillman is she can get it low key.
Oh, damn.
All right. Well, and I think on that note, Stacy Stillman
Yeah, on that note,
will never be
next.
heard of in Survivor history.
the most
They-
feminist Survivor
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
ever.
yeah. There's a reason. There's a reason why Stacy is not popping up in public.
yeah.
There's a reason
One very
Stacey's
last
not
thing
mentioned
about
on the show.
one
as
very
well.
last thing about Stacy is she probably won the most money out of anyone who's been on Survivor.
That's
Yeah,
probably
She's
true.
the
She
true winner.
yeah.
definitely made more than $1 million.
I
9
think it was
days.
like I
Fuck
think it was
off.
like 3.5 million.
I don't think we know that number, but I
We do not
assume
know
it
the
is
number.
above 1 million. But we'll,
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it's
Um,
probably 5 digits.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
I'm
probably
look-
5 digits.
Yeah.
No,
Wait.
sorry.
Well,
Like
yeah.
More than
Dreams here is
That's definitely.
Lee.
Yeah, there should be
10
definitely
million?
more than
Oh,
5.
sorry. I think it's more than 10 million.
Caleb's on the
Wow.
Brad Culpepper math.
However many
That
digits that
Lisi
is.
zeros.
I'm looking at my notes again, and this is a Sue quote, and it's anyone's bossy to Stacy because she doesn't move her ass.
That's a
Fire.
really good one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
Something I did.
generation gap in the fucking episode title. I mean, obviously the focus of that episode is BB, but we literally see the generation gap in full swing with Stacy versus Rudy.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Something else that comes up, I think 3 different times in Borneo that I noticed this last rewatch is I think there's 3 separate attempts to get the women to band together. We have Stacy's, and then on Pagong, we end up getting the kind of Gretchen. They had that kind of
Yep.
let's not vote off another chick, and eventually they stuck it to Joel. And then at the the merge, and after the Gretchen boot, they're all out there fishing or whatever. They say, oh, let's not vote off another woman. Let's and there was attempts for them to all band together, like all of them plus Jervis, to vote off Richard, the episode where he had
My
immunity.
favorite woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, obviously, even though we all have Stacy ranked at 16, that's not necessarily more so to do with her. It's just more so due to how great this cast is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
totally great character. And yep, let's get to 15.
And at number 15, it is Dirk Bean.
No,
Hey,
the
I got
boy.
him at 14. Dude, that
It-
Dirk? Oh my god.
Yeah, that's bald Dirk.
That is old ball Dirk, man.
Bald
Twink
Dirk
death.
obviously being advertised as such on the Survivor Rankdown Twitter.
If anybody's looking at that.
Yeah.
Dirk's looking at it, I can tell
I
you that.
We have
I
like
will
10
say,
followers.
despite the fact that I have Dirk the second lowest out of this entire cast, I have him somewhere in, I'll look, but I have him at 362 of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
he's
think
just
good.
Dirk
think
is
I have him
clearly
higher
good.
than that. Dirk is,
Certified
I
good.
think, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do think it was important to, like we were saying earlier, get all these different types of people. And kind of, I think one of the original like thesis statements of reality TV with stuff like Real World was um to show people different perspectives. And something they did in Real World all the time is they would get one person that's just, a young kid that's completely disconnected from anything else. They don't watch TV or any of this shit. It feels like they're just in their
Yeah.
Bible and
Mm-hmm.
they know their
Yep.
parents kind of
And
deal.
Dirk is a
Is
sexually frustrated dairy farmer.
He's
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
the
it's
original Frank
phenomenal.
Garrison in a way.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
not
Frank
kidding.
Garrison had daughters.
I mean,
He's not as good. I think we all love Frank here. He's not as good as Frank, but
No,
he's
no, but
very much.
and
I
he's
get what
not
you're saying.
and he's
Yeah.
not as, I guess, specific and rigid as Frank, obviously.
I thought you were gonna say
Yeah.
autistic.
Oh yeah.
That's bad
Yeah.
too.
Which
That
would be
will-
crazy.
Sorry, Eva, you're not the first one.
I think for
Yeah.
me, my favorite thing about Dirk is like he's good on his own, but just what he brings out of literally every other person on the tribe is so hysterical. Like people
Yeah.
having to be around Dirk and interact with Dirk is just like gold.
Oh yeah, you can
So
tell that,
good.
especially Kelly and Richard don't. They're not people who like to be around people like Dirk.
Yeah, I
Yes.
love Dirk is like when they're talking about sex, he's like his leg is going up and down and like just pure unnervousness.
Yeah,
And
he's like.
Sue's like, "Oh, you'll love sex. Hey, it'll be
And it's
good when
like,
you find out."
I know I love sex. It's a gift from God.
Oh, he's so funny. Yeah, I
I
feel
mean,
Yeah,
like he's
Dirk
kind
is
of
married
low
with
rated
Dirk is
by
married
the.
with kids at this point,
Yeah,
right?
like
Oh, for sure. He's in his like
I have
40s.
no idea. John Brennan from Real World still a virgin, so
Still?
they cast that.
Really?
Yeah. If you've
Still.
seen that during the pandemic when they did those Real World reunions, still a virgin, still never been married. So
I
that
love John
perfect
Brennan on the
casting.
Inferno too.
You
Insane,
know
by the
what?
way.
Stand
One
on
of
yes.
the one of the great moments of John Brennan on the Inferno too. There's like some challenge where they have to ride a bike across a narrow path, and the whole time he keeps saying the path to God is straight and narrow.
Dude, raw.
I
So awesome.
I'm looking at Dirk's Survivor Wiki page. Yeah, he has 2 children,
All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah,
well,
he's got
good
a
for
wife.
Turkey.
and
Yep.
he's
I hope
Wife
he
and
married.
loves
two
sex
kids,
as much
baby.
as Stu Hawk said he would.
Yep, and he got married in 2004. So it wasn't he didn't wait too long to figure that
Yeah.
out.
I hope he hit up
What's
Stu and gave him his thoughts.
what's
Yeah, it was
also
good.
kind of like insane about Dirk is his backstory too. Of course, how he got in Survivor is really interesting, but he got recruited to play like college basketball. So he moved to the big city for a little bit and played college basketball, and that's why you have scenes where like Sue is making fun of Dirk's swagger, and Dirk is saying like, I'm kicking it on the island, and he says, "You know what I'm saying," and stuff. So he's picking up this like urban slang that you're just like, how the fuck does Dirk know this shit?
yeah.
Tough,
Dirk,
man.
From
Yeah.
college
But
basketball.
it's because he spent like like 2 years playing college ball
yeah,
He's
in the
awesome.
yeah,
big city before he got
yeah,
scared and moved back.
an actual Dirk quote from minutes into the premiere is, "People that are good at what they do annoy me."
That's
Yes,
awesome.
yes, what he
Yeah,
said.
it's talking
Yeah.
about Richard.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which is very funny. But yeah, I at least when it comes to my thoughts on Dirk is I've always kind of had a bit of divided thoughts on him. I did used to have him at 16 for a little bit because I never really hated him or anything, although, I never really knew how to feel about, the fact that, he was so blatantly homophobic, which is kind of the point of his character almost.
And it's also,
It's also
yeah.
half the
I,
people
I
on that
think my
tribe.
perspective, at least, on a character like Dirk, who is homophobic, is that you're not supposed to side with him on it. You're supposed to think that he's being a
Yeah.
dick and he's in the wrong. So I
Yeah,
think
oh
he works as a character because it's
Yeah.
framing it in a way where you're supposed to think he is being bad.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I get if
also, I
it
do
people
think
don't
they
like it. I get
kind
it,
of
but
put him as, young and ignorant kinda deal, like, I don't
yeah,
even think all the time they're framing it as, "Wow, Dirk's a terrible person." I think a lot of times it's framing, "Wow, Dirk just doesn't know shit." You
yeah,
know?
I
Yeah,
agree.
Dirk is
He's very
clearly
And,
just,
stupid.
yeah,
It's
Dirk's
a
just,
mirror to Rudy, who's old enough where he doesn't know gay people in his life. He's homophobic, but he meets Richard and he grows up and realizes, like, all right, you got to accept people for who they are.
yeah,
I think that's a big theme of the season.
the youngest man on the season and the oldest man on the season have that beautiful parallel to them,
Yeah.
and that's something that's just awesome,
yeah,
and I
Caleb mentioned this before, but yeah, Dirk's biggest strength as a character is not really even what he does himself, but the way everybody interacts to the stuff that he does. There's so many
Yeah.
just fantastic quotes about Dirk. Funky mentioned the Rudy quote where, the only thing you need a Bible for out here, and I'm religious too, is if I needed toilet paper. Uh, there's
He's awesome.
there's great
He's
quotes
awesome.
about Richard's perspective on, he doesn't think that, he'll ever really be close to him because, they're on such different ends of the spectrum religiously. And then Sue gets some great dogs on him, and obviously, we all talk about Sean getting dogged on by the tribe, which obviously that's on a bigger spectrum.
And it's a different kind of dogging
But
because
Dirk
Yeah.
does
Sean is
fill that role
just
too pretty decently enough.
Yeah, they're out
Especially because
fishing,
Sean isn't
catching
really getting
0
dunked
fish.
on.
yeah,
I
and
love
Yeah,
the
Sean isn't
last
really getting dunked
episode.
on like that early on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dirk's last episode, one of my favorite scenes is when Dirk and Sean are like, "Oh fuck. I think it's one of us going." And they stop fishing and try to find tapioca, and they suck ass at that also. I don't think they find like any. And
Yeah, Dirk and Sean, the dream team, right here.
yeah,
Dirk,
truly one of
Dirk,
the OG duos of Survivor that's kind of forgotten about. Dirk and Sean are just derping around on the boat for
yeah,
like 12 hours a day with zero progress. And they're like kind of resent that Richard can
It's
catch it.
so
yeah.
awesome.
Dirk's all-time placement is just tragic. Like
Yeah,
he's
he
not bottom 250. Like,
No,
come
I,
on.
I
No.
think
yeah.
I think
He's
people
closer to
will come
top
around.
250.
I think people will come around on Dirk eventually. Not as
Yeah,
like an amazing character, but they'll come around as him being serviceable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good for
I
what he is.
His boot tribal council, he kind of sums it up really well, where he says, "I've been trying everything, but I haven't been successful at anything. But hey, I'm trying."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I feel about Dirk in a lot of ways.
that sums up Dirk being perfectly well. You guys ready to move
Well,
on to the
let me
next one?
give one last hilarious Dirk bit for me is a big reason they decide to vote out Dirk. Well,
It's because
I'll
he's
give two reasons.
yeah.
The
Because
one
one
to
was that he was
show,
losing a lot of weight.
yeah, they say he's
Yeah.
losing all weight. When Sue says he looks like a Nazi prisoner of war, and
Yes.
and when
Sue,
Sue says his
Sue
arm
is
is as
so
big as his now, and Dirk says, "Hey, it always was." Which I thought was a great comeback to that because it's like, yeah, dude, Sue's just fucking hardcore, man.
Sue's the best. All right, moving on. We have the other pre-merge white boy of the season. We got Joel.
Joel Klug.
Joel,
Joel is hilarious. I really like Joel.
Yeah,
He's
Getting
there's
yeah,
voted
yeah,
out because he laughed at Jervis's misogynistic joke is amazing. It's the
it's
yeah.
funniest
so
thing.
yeah.
peak. It is so
Moo.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jenna says moo when she votes for Joel, and then she votes for Jervis at the merge and also moos. She was so mad about that joke, which is
yeah,
fair.
Yeah.
yeah. Good reason to be mad.
I think they were specifically like talking about her too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
it
get
makes
into
sense
Jenna
why.
later, but again,
It makes sense
Um,
why she would be
Joel.
so mad about it.
I honestly could move. now that I think about it, it's like, do I move Joel below Dirk? Again, Joel is good. Joel is
No.
definitely very good.
No, I like
Um,
Joe more than Dirk for sure.
Yeah,
think
I
they're
think
both very
I
good.
feel like
I think
Joel
Stacey and Dirk will
definitely.
always be the bottom two.
I
Yeah.
mean, Joel's best episodes are when he has his rivalry with BB and his boot episode.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those
One
two great episodes.
one Joel anecdote I always think about. Apparently, after Mark Burnett did the final casting interview with Colby, Joel happened to be there, and he walked up to Joel right after, and he was like, "That we just found the guy that's going to replace you." So,
So fucking great.
Again,
Yeah.
I do think that like the defining Joel thing is that, here's this guy who, when you actually look at like everything behind the scenes, he's like really trying his best to lead Pagong in the way that's going to take them to victory. But
Yeah.
because he laughs at one Jervis joke, he's done. And
Yeah.
like they label him, they very pretty unfairly, honestly, label him as a misogynist just for
Yeah,
laughing when
chauvinist.
Jervis makes a really sexist joke.
And then and what's crazy is that they don't vote out Jervis.
They don't vote
Yeah,
out
Yeah,
Jervis.
which is awesome.
Now,
Jervis is one of the greatest social players of all time.
now I will say from like last watching the episode, they do make it pretty clear that even if Joel didn't, get involved in that, it was still pretty clear that they all kind of just thought him as generally just a pretty condescending
Little
person in
chauvinistic,
general.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the BB quote about Joel where he says, "If you sell him for what he thinks he's worth, he's worth $1 million."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it you buy him for
Wait,
what he's worth and sell him for what he thinks he's worth? You make $1 million.
yeah, something
Yeah,
It's really
great like
clunky
that.
metaphor.
Yeah.
Very
It's a great
clunky, but
one. It's
very
really
old
good.
man.
It's good.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
and we get that great Joel versus BB kind of thing where they're both trying to be a leader in different ways. And kind of just both rubbing people the wrong way, funny enough. But at least
Well, I think that
Joel's a little
there's
bit.
the
Go for it.
parallels between those two and Gretchen is that those two try to be the leader and they aren't, and Gretchen doesn't try to be the leader and she is. Yeah.
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 Yep.
The only
Joel is a
thing,
victim for kind of planning too far ahead in a lot of ways, is
Yeah,
what I've
because
always
Yes.
kind of read it. He's talking about the post merge and this, and this, and no one's even on that planet yet at Pagong.
yeah,
They're
because they're
not.
like,
Yeah, they don't think about the post merge until they have hit the merge. Like
Yeah,
that's
I don't think about
they're
the
living
post merge
day
until
by
after
day.
Gretchen is gone.
yeah.
yeah,
yeah, because like the Joel boot kind of functions as you might not figure this out yet, but this is gonna kind of signal why Pagong is not going to get the victory over Tagi here.
Yes.
Mhm. I
And
in my notes, the only thing about Joel that I have written down, again, only from the first two episodes, is BB versus Joel.
yeah,
Yeah,
Jenna has
that's
a great
fair.
confessional where she's kind of going on about Joel, and she kind of talks about it. And he always talks about things as if, oh, we just couldn't do this thing without Joel.
One of my favorite things Joel says that kind of illustrates kind of the points we're making is they get to tree mail and Joel asks the group, he says something like, "Hey, should we try to plan for the challenge and figure out what it is based on the clues, or should we just throw all that out the window and panic at the challenge?" Kind of in like a condescending way because they'd already like lost like the last challenge or something like that. And he's trying to be like, straighten them out, but in
You
an
got to.
arrogant
You
kind of
owned
dicky
them.
way. Yeah. And that's kind of what happens with Joel, even though like I don't think he's an inherently bad guy. You just kind of see that, oh,
Well,
this guy kind of
eh,
thinks a lot of himself.
I mean, he's
I mean,
definitely a douche.
I don't know if Joel now is necessarily the best guy ever, considering he is a active climate change denier.
Yeah, but
Oh
who
yeah,
isn't?
No,
but
that's good.
they're just
Oh
correct.
Come
my
on.
god! But yeah,
Same
no,
with
like
the host of Survivor South Africa. It's the same.
Yeah, the GOAT, Nico. Shout out Nico.
Hmm.
Just
yeah,
watch
one
Survivor
of
South Africa. If you haven't
And
seen it, you should watch it.
I've only seen one episode of South Africa, but shout out Seamus and shout out Martinez.
Don't shout that guy out.
Let us,
but yeah,
yeah. If
you
you're
can
talking
kind of
bad guys, let's not shout out Seamus, who has a visible Nazi tattoo in his fucking cast photo.
Yeah, shout out Seamus for making me want to punch him.
They're crazy in South Africa. Oh my god, what the
Yeah,
fuck?
he's
But
probably
yeah,
the
you
only
can kind
South
of.
African racist.
But yeah, no, this is another
Some of
big
I like the
example.
South African seasons, and you get a lot of white guys that are racist down there for some reason.
But yeah, this is
Yeah,
another.
who could have thought?
This whole Joel thing.
I'm gonna have to put my thinking
Wait.
cap on for that one, Kyle.
All right, wait, hold on. Yeah, this whole Joel thing, and this is a big, great example as to what these early seasons do so well. Is that they take this issue that seems like, oh, Joel, why is Joel going home, because he's not the one making the joke and stuff, but when you get fuller into the content of what we see in the episode, they do such a great job of showing that this is not a black and white issue at all. There is so much layers of things that are leading up to Joel's downfall at the end of the day, and that's what these early seasons do so well. They take these issues that could be presented as like a very black and white thing, but that's not how they portray it at all. They really show a lot of
Great
gray
point.
area.
Yeah, one of my favorites is they have this montage of everyone talking about Joel's talking about how he thinks he's in a good spot, and then they have a montage of every woman on the tribe saying they think Joel's kind of chauvinistic, and then it ends with him being like, "Yeah, so I think I'll be good at tribal tonight." In his boot episode,
They
Really
really
good.
just go out of their way in his last
Yeah.
episode, which I think is
Yeah.
just awesome. Obviously, I
original
have
live
him the highest
action.
rated. I have him the highest rated out of everybody here in terms of like ranking in the cast, but like I just really love what he brings to the season. Honestly, he like contrasts really well with basically every man on the season, because there's really not another character on the season who, besides I guess Dirk in his own way, who is like so just like openly hated by all the women for the way that he talks to people.
Yeah. Something that I really two quotes that I wanted to bring up. One, a great one from Colleen, where she says
Of
that
course.
Jervis is just as as chauvinistic as Joel. He just hides it better. And then at that tribal council where they vote off Joel, Jervis says, "I said it, but Joel lives it."
No, he says
Or
that
someone
at the reunion.
Oh,
He
at the
says that at the
reunion.
reunion.
Damn it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
That's
said it.
the
I
best
said it,
quote.
but
What a
Joel
throwing
lives
under-
it.
What a fucking
Yeah, I said it, but
crazy
Joel
ass
lives it.
quote.
Great.
That's
Dude,
insane.
so fucking good. Yeah, the reunion, my bad. But yeah,
That's
it's such a
insane.
No,
good one.
I also love that quote. Yeah.
Yeah, Joel, the world's strongest man. He's killing it in these challenges, and Sue wasn't able to beat Joel
That's
in
true.
and all that. And he got a big head, but he was winning challenges, and he seems to be a pretty capable person. So yeah, he's kind of in a way the first person that's voted off for they're having a reason that isn't just because oh, we think they're not doing well in terms of surviving in the elements. Because even
Yeah.
someone like Stacy, they were like, "Oh, she's too prim, she's too young. Dirk too skinny, Sonia old, BB old, and doesn't want to fucking be there anymore.
Yeah,
Ramona's sick."
Ramona's sick. Yeah.
Yeah, Joel is the first person in Survivor history where they're like, we
He can
don't
handle it,
want
but
to
he's got to
be
go.
around that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. This guy can take it, but let's get him out anyways.
And I think it's interesting that it's Pagong that does that.
Yeah, that
Not
phenomenal
Zagi, like
point.
you'd think. Yeah, it's Pagong that's the first tribe to be like, you know what? He can take it. He's fine, but we're voting him out anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're voting him out on a moral standpoint instead of a survival standpoint.
I love
That's
Pagong so
yeah,
much.
very, very
Pagong might be the
interesting.
greatest tribe of all time.
Yeah,
Dude,
we
so
are.
peak.
By the way,
We're
All right.
1 and
we
2
are
here.
we are only 3 characters, and we're 2 hours into this podcast. So
1 hour,
Oh,
48
Borneo's
minutes.
always gonna be long.
Hey,
yeah.
give us a like if you're still here, please.
But yeah, number
There will be
13. Let's
no
go to
likes on this
13.
video. But we ready to go to the next person?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Sure.
So the next person is the first ever boot in Survivor history, Sonia Christopher.
Woo!
What a
All right.
I thought
A
she'd
bit
be
more
higher.
a bit more interesting rankings here than the last few.
Yeah, I have Sonia in my top 100 characters of all time. I adore Sonia.
Yeah, I love Sonia. I think she's the perfect one to be the first to ever get voted out of Survivor.
She's
I
so
agree.
awesome.
She's
She-
so
so
nice.
She's so nice. She's
And I
so
think-
sweet. The scene of her singing "Bye Bye Blues" is it's just so wholesome, and also the added context of that scene being between Sonia and Hatch, and they're obviously the two
They book in this
LGBTQ.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they bookend the season. They're the two LGBTQ contestants on the season. Um,
Mhm.
and again, Sonia, again, her one episode arc again perfectly establishes, okay, this is how you get voted off Survivor. The nicest person on the cast gets voted off first, and I feel like that just mm,
It shows in
fully
many ways
exemplified.
how cruel Survivor can be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's
and
it's
it's
sad. No one wanted to be
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
Sonia has a great quote where she's like, "I can't believe it. We have to pack up, and we're not even settled into our camp yet," or something like that. And
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
really
the
just a
thing about that
heartbreaking
song
thing.
The thing
yeah,
about that song too is it's such a beautiful moment between her and Richard, and obviously, like everybody here said, it bookends the season between like the first boot and the winner. It's just like a very nice moment between two, similar people in different ways, but also she's talking about abusing like prescription painkillers in the song at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, we also get our introduction to the resident doctor because she, has the thin
Yeah.
skin and falls, and
Yes, that's
good thing there's
true.
a doctor
mhm,
on staff
You've
because
never
we
seen a
we get our
doctor with
introduction to
a
Sean.
you've never seen a doctor with a nipple piercing before.
Man.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
so
I
great. What a great first boot for the
Yeah,
entire just franchise.
and
She's the
she's
Yeah.
perfect one.
she's saying stuff. She's getting cut up, thin skin, and she's like, she still has such a positive attitude, and she's like, up here I'm like 35, and I'm
Mhm.
just trying to act 35, and it's
Yeah,
so sad that she can't be
Oh,
anything other than the first boot of the season.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
One
damn,
thing that
dude.
always stuck out to me, this doesn't really come across in the edit because we only hear her vote for someone once, obviously. But she wanted to say something nice about everybody she voted out so that they wouldn't feel bad when they got the vote.
Mhm.
And I think that again, the fact that that's the person who goes first is very
And that shows in her
it
final
sets the
words
tone of the
too.
season for
Mhm.
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In her
Like
final
like,
words, she's saying, "I would vote me out first too. I don't hold anything bad against anyone. I just couldn't perform. I'm the
yeah,
older one."
Yeah, she's
And
just such
it's
a sweetheart.
and again,
yeah.
she just maintained such a positive attitude about the show, and she was so grateful about it the entire time that up until her passing last year, she
RIP.
remained a
Yeah.
huge RIP. She remained a huge active fan of the show, and towards the end, she ended up becoming buddies with season 46 contestant Liz Wilcox.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow, didn't know that one.
that's
yeah.
that's great.
A couple months before her passing, Sonia was uh giving away and selling a bunch of her Survivor memorabilia, which uh
Wow.
I mean, and
Yeah.
she gave it all to Liz Wilcox.
Damn.
Wow. That's interesting.
Liz is a legend for that one.
Yeah, to the
Yeah.
point
Kyle,
where
why did you just DM
the
Kyle? Why did you
person
just DM me saying I'm
yeah,
dropping her for that? That's crazy.
to be fair, the person to actually break the sad news about Sonia was Liz.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Hmm.
My goodness. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
And
that's
she
that's
hosted like
history right
cast
there.
get-togethers, right?
She did,
Yeah.
yeah, we're at, like,
Yeah.
at her
For
house a lot
Borneo,
of the
yeah.
times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the word I associate with Sonia Christopher the most is love,
Yeah,
and
she's
that
just
is
Yeah.
such
just
a kind
fully
person.
exemplified. She's the best first boot of all time. No, nothing is taking the cake on that.
I
And
could
again,
respect that
it's
take.
insane. A
Good
one
take.
episode character is in my top 100 characters of all
Yeah.
time.
And
I'll
on the
say it.
flip
It might be
side
Peter Harkey. It might be Peter. But
It
Well,
is
she's
it is
well,
Peter, but I
we'll get to
respect that take a lot.
I
oh
respect the
yeah,
Peter
it's a
Hardy
very fair
take
take.
for sure. Peter is we'll get to Peter in a few episodes, but
yeah.
he's something.
Yeah, and, like, I'm the odd person out here with Sonia at 15, and that's truly just because she's only around for 1 episode. It is so great, and it's the best you can get out of 1 episode. I just think, there's more that's built on these other characters that had more time,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
but
Yeah,
she is
I
just
think
super good, and has an
numbers,
amazing
especially
outfit also.
early on in this, like the numbers really don't do the characters justice. Like I don't think there's a single person here would say that any of the 16 of these characters are like not a net positive
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
season. So it's like when you see like 13th or 15th, you're like, oh, why do you have them so low if you like them so much? It's because this is a good cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, there is nobody that is like actively bad here. Like,
And I would call everyone actively good.
yeah,
I would agree.
yeah.
All right, what do we got next?
Yeah. Next up we have I mean, spoiler alert, the next two are our remaining Pagong pre-mergers, but
The
next
other
up we
pre-mergers, yes.
have Ramona.
Hey,
Woo!
there's one of those get-togethers.
Yeah.
Look at
Nice,
that.
nice.
Damn, Gretchen looks the same. Good for her.
Yeah. And in that photo, she's like about 60.
Yeah, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ramona's awesome. I think Ramona's one of those people where I think if things broke out a little differently, which basically translates to if she didn't get sick, I think she could be a huge star of the franchise. So she's
Oh,
so fun.
She's
easily. And that's what after the season everyone was saying. That was
Yeah.
that got to know her, that lived there, was like, if Ramona didn't get sick, she is a star, you
Yeah.
know.
yeah. Which I
And
mean, it sucks also that I mean, when she gets voted out, everyone it's like, yeah, you're the weakest left. It sucks that you're sick, but we got to do what we got to do. And then fucking BB was I mean, BB was calling everyone lazy, but BB was calling Ramona lazy and it was like,
Yeah.
bro, come
My
on.
goat.
You're sick. Also, optics of that are a little.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, he
yeah, the
did try to
optics of
break
that
an
are a little
alliance
iffy.
with Ramona
He
when they
did.
were like, let's be the only two that know where the water well is, so they
Yeah.
never vote us off.
That is a
He
And
very
then
did.
goated
I
scene.
think Lil
He
and Skinny
denied him.
Ryan try
He
that same
denied him.
strategy.
Yeah,
And
I
it
do
worked.
love that
They both won.
BB tells Ramona, as long as it's you and I that know where the water is, no one will vote us out, and they are the first two people on the tribe voted out.
That's really good.
That
Legends.
is a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think
Ramona,
yeah, Ramona
But
yeah, Ramona for me is like really the first case of like a truly tragic tale that we'll see many more times throughout the case of the show. But this is really the first case of that where, you know, she starts off sick. She's not really able to work very much. Some people don't give her that sympathy, like BB. Some people, like Jervis, do give her that sympathy. And I think
felt it
especially
for
in her
her.
boot episode is really where you start to see how tragic it is because we have the whole dynamic with her and Jenna. And
Mm-hmm.
there's of course that
Yeah.
big confessional where Ramona's talking about Jenna, you know, this is my first white friend since high school,
Ever.
right?
junior high. Yeah.
It's
Doing
middle
yeah,
I thought
school.
it was just ever.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
and
and then we
I
cut to Jenna being like, "Oh, you know, I think Ramona's just a little too late," and it was just like, "Oh, that
Yeah.
stings, man. That stings."
And
Yeah.
it's
the title
tragic.
of the episode, Too Little Too Late. That's really,
Yeah.
the big theme with
Mhm.
Ramona. We see this turnaround at the end at her tribal council. Everyone's painted up, you know. They make it a community event. So Ramona's painted up too. They all enjoyed, being goofy with one another, and they
Mhm.
truly seem to get along with everyone in their company
Yeah.
by the end.
Mhm. And when they were
And
all, playing games, it's like, yeah, Ramona was sick, but they clearly loved Ramona out there. And
Yeah.
really besides BB, like her getting sick is very again, there is the unfortunate stereotype of, oh, the black contestants being portrayed as lazy, but I
yeah,
think
Yeah.
they do a very good job at being very sympathetic with Ramona's
Yeah,
situation.
and we'll probably get
yeah,
more to that with Jervis when we get to him as well, and that's because that's a
Yeah.
big thing
Jervis
for his
is just
story too.
lazy too.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, I think Jervis just kind of is lazy.
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
He has
yeah.
a ton of confessionals that are like about like doing his best to not do much.
One
Yeah.
of my favorite Ramona moments with BB, like we are talking about, where BB is of course doing everything, and people are trying to talk to him, and BB says, "You guys are backseat cooks," and Ramona responds, "You're a backseat everything."
Ramona's awesome.
They use her as a narrator a lot in those early
Yeah.
episodes. Like if you watch, she gets a fair amount of airtime as kind of describing the dynamics, and in a way, she's almost the straight man, maybe because she's sick.
Yeah.
Of
She's kind of outside
Pagan.
all of the dynamics, so she's able to explain what they look like.
Mhm.
I have Ramona in my top 200.
Oh,
She's great. Yeah,
She's
that's fair
great.
enough.
think I do too. Yeah, she says the line before tribal council, "Nobody totally sucks. This would be a lot easier if we didn't like each other."
Yeah.
And yeah, that's some tough shit.
Yeah.
And I love the scene where she eats the rat. You know, they all eat the rat the first time.
Yeah.
And Jervis and Ramona are like, "What the fuck are we doing, y'all?" But then they eat it, and of course they like it. Jervis says, "It's on till the break of dawn," or whatever he says, and Ramona says something like, "Stop
Oh.
hogging the rat, Joel."
It's awesome.
Ramona's
Yeah.
and another thing about Ramona, even to this day, she is very active in the Survivor community. Pretty sure she goes to the Bryson Wendell events, and like
Yeah.
a lot of people want her to play again, myself included. I would
Yeah,
like
if
to
we're doing
see.
returning player seasons, which we shouldn't, fucking put Ramona out there.
Yeah, like if we're doing
Yeah.
like if they ever decide to do like an all pre-merged season, then I think she could be a very good candidate for that.
Yeah,
Or
I
I
mean,
I
second chances
remember
too.
if you want to do like
hearing
a season of pre-mergers, and you want to have someone from Borneo, it's
yeah,
such an
she's the
easy pick
one.
that it's Ramona.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Ramona could have been on
two of them are
50.
dead. Stacy might as well be dead to production. So it's, I
And
think
then
Dirk is
Dirk
falling off the
Dirk
grid.
thinks
So
this
it's either
show is
Joel or
satanic.
Ramona.
Real.
Yeah,
and
He's not
Joel
wrong, but
and
sure.
Joel doesn't believe in climate change, and
yeah, you can put someone who doesn't believe in climate change.
You
I
can
don't
put
really
Joel
care.
on there.
Yeah,
I would
this
to
is
be
be.
Mark
fair,
I would like
Burnett's
to
TV
see.
to
show.
to be fair, in the new era, they had a Roy Moore bodyguard, so it's like it's you
Yeah.
know.
They had
That's
anti-vax people
true.
on the new era too. I don't
Oh
think it
yeah,
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
pops up on the show, but
Tori.
yeah, there
Tori.
I remember that.
Or yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah, we've had some questionable folks on the new era too. It's just not as public about it because you know, the show
People are more
doesn't really
media trained
explore
now.
shit like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, they're all media trained, and I don't think the show cares to create that kind of controversy.
Yeah,
yeah.
the
Yeah, I don't think the
Let's go
show
to
at this point wants there to be people that the fans don't like, which I understand the impulse, but I think maybe makes for a worse show. I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah, let's
I
go to
mean,
11. Speaking
if
of people
Speaking
that
of
are not
BB,
exactly the most likable people ever at
uh-huh.
11th.
I kind of spoiled this earlier, but it is BB.
is BB the worst Survivor player ever?
Yes.
Probably.
Yes.
He's
He
up
is
there.
he is
I
my
think
vote for the worst ever.
his first confessional is like, yeah, it's not a democracy, it's not a popularity contest out here, and I think that is the
I'll vote
two
on.
things
Yeah,
that
no, he'll say
exactly
like, I'll
describe
vote
him.
on things that don't matter. But if it's things where it matters, no, we are not doing that.
Oh, man.
BB, bro.
He's hilarious.
He's definitely bottom, for sure, bottom 5 player of all time.
The
Dude,
only argument
He
against him being last is that it is Borneo.
Yeah,
he
and also
he is
you could also just
he's
say that like
genuinely so hysterical though. Is the thing.
He's hilarious. That
Yes.
picture of him carrying Greg like that kills me every time.
Doing
Yeah.
absolutely
I
nothing.
would I would say worst player of all time is probably between him and Wendy Joe.
Wendy
Between those
Joe, I
two.
think, has never like met a person before, so
yeah.
like fair enough.
Wendy Joe had a strategy. Like
Wendy Joe has an ally. Her and Holly are allies. That's something. I don't think anyone was on BB's
Yeah.
side.
Well, I think Gretchen like tried to be
I
friends with
I
BB, but
I think they did try. I
Ramona
think Gretchen
also
tried,
Ramona
Ramona,
also
Greg.
mhm.
I think we see moments of them trying to get
Yeah.
BB in. Like in the newlywed game they play, they try to, you know, get BB involved, and BB reveals he has that like wife that's like 20 years younger than him, and they call him Viagra.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And BB's even
I
kind of laughing at it. He's like, "All
yeah.
right, guys, that was pretty funny."
I will.
Even Colleen in like what even while BB is like kind of starting to lose his shit out there, Colleen is just like, yeah, I want a BB action figure.
Oh
Me
yeah,
too.
She's
I mean
being
that's. I
like
think that's the
Mhm.
first Colleen confessional.
Yeah,
Just
and
he
then
doesn't
she's
want to be
being
there.
immediately
sarcastic.
and then he forgets Jenna Lewis's name.
Mhm.
He
That's
also
true.
forgets Greg's name. He calls him Craig.
He does. Yeah, he's
So
really bad.
great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think
He's like a
my
fuck.
thing with BB is that like he is so hysterical that you could just think, oh, he's he's a moments character. He's got a lot of great moments, but no, I mean across his 2 episodes, his the narrative is very tight. Like it's
Yeah.
all right there.
Mhm.
You know, he basically quits the game, which just lines up very perfectly with everything that you've seen from him, and basically everything, every every all your favorite moments in the first 2 episodes on Pagong are probably related to BB,
Oh, for
and
sure.
him
Yeah.
just existing brings like the best out of every single character on that tribe.
Yeah.
And it
He's
also just shows how there's also just a very good connection between the way Rudy adapts to the tribe and the way BB just does not adapt at all
Mhm.
to the tribe.
Yeah.
Dude, he builds the shelter on the fucking beach.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
My God,
That
yeah,
reminds me
and
of when the
I
fans
mean,
do that
you
on
gotta
Micronesia
put
and
credit to
James.
BB. I know BB, has a problem with calling literally everyone lazy because they're not to his standard of doing work around camp. But BB, those first couple days, BB
Dude,
was a fucking horse out there. Like,
he's on
dude,
his Kevin Gates. He does not
yeah.
get tired.
yeah,
This
Well, he
motherfucker.
he
He's
did tire
restarting
out, but
car batteries with his heart
BB was just
Yeah.
or with
nonstop.
his hands.
like he
His
would.
heart.
Like if there was no time limit, if he could have just worked out there for days, he would have probably died out there working. That's how
I
long
think
he
he
would have been
says
working.
working is his hobby. I think he says that in the
I
Uh-huh.
episode.
think I'm
That's
pretty sure that is.
amazing.
I'm
Him,
pretty sure that is a quote that he gives. Yes.
Yeah,
yeah.
and one of my favorite BB moments is when he's arguing with Joel, and he says that well, if we were to build I can't remember what it was, but if we were to build this thing, then that would be your job. And then Jenna after that goes, so is having kids my job?
Oh yeah, it was if
Oh
we were
yeah, build
building
a
a health
gym. Yeah.
club or gym or whatever. Dude, so
Oh,
peak. And then
BB.
of course we got to talk about BB's beautiful trying to save face moment, but try to say I don't want
Yeah,
to fucking be here with y'all assholes anymore.
yeah,
He's
it's
He
beautiful.
does quit. Yeah,
it's
he's the
funny
original
because, like,
quitter.
yeah, at because going into that first Pagong Tribal Council, where I again should mention again, they all try to vote off Jeff Probst, very ahead of their time. But I was,
If only they
Pagong is
succeeded.
like Pagong is like we all have to agree on everything we do, and BB is like, what are you talking about? This isn't a democracy, and then everyone gets mad, and then he quits. But
Yeah.
not
No.
without Gretchen telling BB, "Yo, you should wear your buff as a tube top."
Does he do it?
Dude.
No,
Ugh.
I don't think he does.
Where
It's
Yeah.
would
BB.
BB
Of course he
wash his
doesn't do it.
buff?
Oh
Probably
yeah,
in the
we
water.
haven't got. Yeah, BB was like washing his clothes in their water, the cooking water,
The
God,
drinking
how does he
water.
give
the
out that
drinking water, the
too?
drinking water. Yeah,
Like I feel like even if you're on like you're watching the show as someone who thinks most deserving, hardest working, kind of this really like American ascent vision of if you work really hard, you will achieve your dreams. If you're one of those people that's your vibe on Survivor too. Um
Mhm.
I don't know how after that fucking drinking water clothes washing thing you could be like, damn, these people were mean to BB.
yeah.
And
They
also,
are.
again, in real life before the show, BB is like genuinely just straight up an evil human being. So it's
Yeah,
like, okay,
he never stopped working.
Yeah, wasn't he like on like Ronald Reagan's team for back during
I
his
think it
administration?
was
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush, but they had a lot of intersecting members, so he could have been on both for all I know.
I think he was involved with the Reagan administration in some way.
Yeah, which
What's
does
wrong with the
carry
Reagan
over to
administration?
HW.
Hmm.
Dude, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So BB, probably the worst player in Survivor history. And
But
speaking
the
of
best second
someone
boot.
we,
Oh,
yeah,
one more BB moment.
up there.
When he gets voted out, look at BB's fucking clothes. This motherfucker is in a blue shirt and khakis. I wonder who's gonna steal that look.
Oh man, I know.
Oh yeah,
Jeff stole
true,
BB's
true, true,
spot.
true.
I know he is. Jeff Probst is truly the Travis Scott of this scenario.
Speaking,
Shout out to Pusha T.
yep.
Yeah.
Speaking
Shout out
of
to ASAP.
Don't
mhm,
date the
speaking of
podcast.
speaking of people that we talked a lot about BB and this next person, and I'll just I'll introduce her. It's
Gretchen Cordy.
the victim
Oh,
of
dude.
41111,
Damn.
however many ones, Gretchen Cordy.
Will be
And the whole
six.
nation cried. The whole nation cried and screamed.
Yep.
Gretchen
I'm the
being
only
number
person here.
10
Oh
of
wow.
this cast is just a matter of
She's like the
the
best
fact
character on
that
about
she goes.
95% of Survivor casts.
Oh yeah,
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 like I have
absolutely.
Gretchen in my top 80 or so.
8. Fair
8,
enough.
80. But
Could be.
yeah, I have her in my
Said
top
8.
8 when she's my number 10 at Borneo.
Listen, the cast is good. It's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, really, this is the perfect thing to bring up because I didn't bring it up for BB, but I mean, they went out back to back here, so it's the perfect thing to bring up. Is that maybe the best or second best moment of foreshadowing in Survivor history is when BB says that him and Gretchen getting voted out would be like an atomic bomb on this camp.
Yeah,
And
and
when
Eek.
when
when hi-
Gretchen
when
goes,
him when him and Gretchen are out of the game, it is an atomic bomb to
yeah,
to Pagong's game.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
She
the-
was just so likable and so malleable too. Like
Yeah.
she was older. She has moments where she says she kind of feels a little bit isolated because everyone else is within a few years of each other, and she's the
Mhm.
old lady, and she's never been the old lady in a situation. But she
She's young,
thrives
but
with
she's
it.
like
Yeah,
old.
because yeah, she's young at heart. That's not
Yeah.
something that
Hmm.
Her and
defines her.
Jane, young at heart.
Exactly. Even though
Yeah.
she was closer in age to Jervis than Jervis was to Jenna Colleen and Greg.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just about.
Just
Yeah.
about, yeah. I think one thing I do want to bring up with Gretchen is a lot of people nowadays don't really understand how big the a scale her boot was. But we're
Yes. I mean,
we're
it's monumental.
yeah, we're talking about somebody here who is basically designed to win this type of game if it was purely on the survival aspect. Like
Hmm.
Yeah,
she is like built out there. She like they say that she's like, oh yeah, her occupation is a teacher, but she was in the military for a while. She is
Yeah.
a tough cookie. She knows her stuff, and
And Tagi knew this, and
yeah,
so they got rid of her.
Tagi knew this
Yep.
yep,
exactly.
She
But yeah,
was too good.
we see this a little bit, but like, I think you can make an argument for a lot of people really being the defining for pretty much all of the last five Pagongs to be like the defining person of the Pagong. I think there's a very valid argument for all five of them, and we can probably go over each one of those arguments as we go on through
Yeah.
each character. But a lot of what Gretchen represents as like, very the traditional type of survival leader, and that's
Mhm.
probably the biggest shock of it all as to how she goes out that early because people didn't really understand this is way more than just survival. This is a very social game, and if you're not having those alliances, you will be kicked immediately.
Hmm.
Yeah.
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 I
She
She
was
is
excited
not
to go to the new
she's not
camp, meet new
necessarily
people.
yeah, she's not necessarily the best like Pagong member in terms of character, nor does she really like represent the Pagong cast the best, but she does represent Pagong as an idea the best,
Yes.
I think is my
Yeah,
Yeah,
opinion on
yeah.
that.
I
Yeah,
agree with that.
that's a very good point there.
Yeah, and unlike BB, she doesn't self-appoint herself as like Pagong's de facto leader, but she kind of gets thrusted into that role.
She's
And
the oldest one there by 10 years.
oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And she's just doing her thing, and
Hmm.
people end up respecting it, and that's fucking
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they kind of
Yeah.
look to her as like the mother figure when like she's not she's never really had to do that with them before, but like obviously she's been a teacher in the past, the elementary school teacher in the past, but
Yeah.
Yeah, that probably brings a sensitive side to it. But yeah, Gretchen,
She
great.
also,
You can't.
her job, other than being an elementary school teacher, I don't know how many people know about this because it's not listed on the cast jobs, but she taught Navy SEALs how to withstand torture. That is her other job.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's in the next
that
if
was
you're
what
episode.
she like
wondering,
was specifically doing, yeah, in the
if you're
She's
wondering
military.
why Gretchen's such a badass, that's why.
she's got that dog in her. She is
Does
in
she ever?
she's like 62, 63 now, and she still wants to play Survivor again. And I think if they gave her the opportunity, even at 66, 67,
She'd
she
kill it.
would be just fine out there.
Oh,
If
yeah.
Gretchen would have been on that first All-Star season, not a single person would have said she didn't belong.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
she was a big deal.
100%.
Although
100%.
you could say that for like anyone who made the merge Borneo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
fair. Plenty of people
I
say
think
Jenna
I
Lewis
think
didn't belong, but,
I think they would say Dr. Sean didn't belong.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, Gretchen, just super beloved, and, yeah, just what a great idea of what I think America wanted the show to be, was to
Yeah.
reward people like Gretchen, and,
Yeah.
Gretchen
There
was
was
that
amazing.
there
does
was
not happen.
there was no there was probably just straight up no way that any new viewer of the show, because by this point the show's a phenomenon. Everyone is talking at the water cooler about, oh, who's going next? Who's going next? I don't
Mhm.
think 2 hours before the episode, when everyone was uh leaving work and discussing, oh, what's gonna happen tonight, not a single person probably at all was like, you know who's gonna go home tonight? Gretchen.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No
I think
way.
it was more likely they thought Gretchen was winning. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
She just look at her face, "It's me," she says shocked, and, yeah,
oh, man.
Yeah.
that's truly what it was, like, what the
Bills.
fuck?
Like
Bills.
obviously, oh, yeah, and we've talked about obviously the idea of what she represents is obviously what is the strongest point about her. She does also have some like very solid character moments in there a little bit as well with her relationship with BB, as we've gone on before. Of course she has that great confessional at the Joel boot where she talks about how she told Jenna, if you go into that voting confessional, you just say bragging loudly moo.
And she
Yep.
Yeah.
does, and does do that.
Yeah, she does. She
She
does
Pretty
it.
yeah,
much just totally does that.
follow
Yeah.
orders. It
Yeah.
so good.
Uh,
So
Alright.
next up,
Our
speaking of
first
Jenna Lewis,
juror, Jenna
Jenna
Survivor 50
Lewis.
Lewis.
winner,
yep,
hopefully.
Let's hope so.
let's hope.
Man,
Yeah.
It is kind of crazy to me that in this podcast we are talking about someone who is literally out there on the island playing Survivor as we speak.
Yep.
yeah,
Hopefully.
that is true. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And we
Hopefully.
probably will be next time when we record the Outback one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Colby.
But I guess we don't know if they're playing. It's entirely
Ah,
Yeah,
possible.
she could
Jenna's
al-
been
she could
voted
already
out.
be out.
I'm
Yep, she could already
I'm
be
in
out.
today is
Have your lead, dog.
today is I think day 13 of the game,
How
which
deep
and
is 13 in a 26-person season? Like,
It's like the
I
final
don't
five,
know.
right?
no, it's probably about like it's probably like
Maybe
12 or
like
13
jury.
people.
Probably
Not jury.
halfway. Yeah.
Split tribal as we speak.
I no,
It's
I
not
think
impossible.
I
Jenna
think
Lewis was idled out merely minutes ago by Charlie Davis
Yeah.
as he goes on to win the
no,
season.
right now I'm pretty sure they would be filming just time zone wise, I'm pretty sure they would be filming a challenge. Oh, and it would be day 14. But
Well, maybe she's winning the challenge then.
yeah,
Um,
Yes.
maybe
but let's
Jenna
talk
Lewis
about
is
Jenna on
winning
Borneo instead
individual
of Jenna on
immunity at this
Let's
50.
talk
stage.
about Jenna on a good season, please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the only
Jenna,
time
I
we
have
can, so let's do it.
so I have Jenna the highest here. I love Jenna Lewis. She's all I know, like you guys, or I know most people are like, oh yeah, she's clearly like number 4 of Pagong, and it's like I get it, but she's just so good. I have her as number 4 of Pagong actually, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
her standout moment is obviously
The
her
family
not
visit
the family or
or family videos.
the videos where her kids don't get her the video, and she's r- obviously devastated at that. That's her signature moment, but again, Jenna's a firecracker.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where
Ramona calls
she's
her the Energizer Bunny.
Mhm.
Her first
Which
white friend that they do that cool handshake together, and then Jenna slaps on her ass.
man, oh Jenna. Yeah, I know Jenna was originally cast to be a villain. I think you see a lot more of that on All Stars, but I've heard she
Yeah.
was supposed to be a
Yes.
big villain.
Yeah. Burnett's
Mhm.
book talks about that. He thought Jenna was going to be the one that was the Machiavellian,
cutthroat.
cutthroat, put it all aside, and you
The
get
Richard
that, and
Hatch
you
of the cast, one could say.
yes, exactly, because
Which
they didn't I don't
she
think they
has
thought
it in
Richard
her.
Hatch would do that well on
Yeah.
Survivor.
Yeah.
Well, they cast
But,
him to be the first food.
yeah,
Yeah.
Jeddah, someone that theoretically should do well, athletic, young, has a very inspiring story. You have, being a single mother of twins. Twins are super hard if no one has had to deal with twins. I love all the twins in my life.
Especially
But
at 22.
yeah, 22, 2 babies, like
Yeah, that
2
was tough.
toddlers. No, it is quite a chore. You are a survivor, anyone here who is a parent to twins. So, shout out to any of our parent listeners.
My aunt and uncle.
I have
They're
Yeah,
like
My
28,
my
the twins right
parents,
now, but
I have
my
I have
parents.
2 friends. They're not
What, you're a twin?
No, my sisters are though.
Oh, okay.
oh,
oh, okay.
I
I dig it. I have, cousins and uncles who are twins. I
I
love my
have
baby cousins.
I have some friends who are I have a bunch of friends that are twins actually.
Yeah. Yeah, but, yeah, to get back to Jenna, yeah, we end up not really getting that character in the story, I get think just due to the circumstances and the realities of being on the show, and, we get the Energizer Bunny, but we also get a very vulnerable side to Jenna, someone who I think doesn't want people to see her as weak or anything like that. She's
Yeah,
telling herself, "I can't cry," when something legitimately really sad happened and
Great point.
to
yeah.
her, and it's fucking rough, and I love how much she's practicing for the challenge because they gave him the bow and arrow to practice because they know it's gonna be um, what that's ends up gonna be, and it's time to perform, and she's not even gonna fucking get the prize if she wins, so she doesn't give a fuck. And then we get
Yeah,
the great Greg scene, all that, and then we get the scene of her just afterwards, all depressed, shooting a perfect fucking bullseye.
I know. It's
Perfect
so
Come
bullseye
on.
right
Oh,
there.
you couldn't
Chills.
have
that's
scripted that better.
an
I get
example. I
chills.
talk about this a lot with Borneo. That's an example of a scene on Borneo that people don't talk about all that much. That would be the best scene on plenty of seasons.
On like
Yeah.
90% of seasons.
Yeah, that would be like the defining moment of plenty of seasons, even seasons I like. Like that would be the best moment on Guatemala. And I think Guatemala is a solid season.
Yeah.
You know?
100%.
It'd be the
But yeah.
best moment on like
About
Panama,
Jenna there for a little bit. Well, I was gonna say, well, Panama, you do kind of have the whole Tina Shear stuff, which is kind of similar, but
Yeah, Tina's really good. We'll talk about it
yeah,
eventually.
but
Yeah.
yeah, with Jenna Lewis there. Obviously, though, obviously we all do agree that she's not quite as good as like a Greg, a Jervis, or a Colleen, but what she does have is we've
An
talked a lot.
unfortunate first name,
Yeah, well,
by the way. Yeah.
yeah,
Wait,
we do talk a
Zelda and
lot
Zoe?
about. Yeah, we have talked a lot about, obviously there's the video from home stuff with the kids, and there's obviously, the fact that in the whole, Pagong representation, she does kind of represent a lot of that fun energy that they have, where, she's just constantly up and up and up and up all the time, all the time. And,
Going to the mud volcano.
a lot of the talkies point that out as well, with, oh, Jenna would just be talking our asses off. We got to get rid of her immediately as he comes over here.
When I watched the show or when I watched this season for the first time as a fresh 12-year-old, Jenna was kind of my first Survivor crush.
Yeah, she's really, really cute, and she has the pink bikini and all that the BB talks about.
But yeah,
Yeah, nah, she's
She's
adorable.
got she's got the personality.
so
Yeah,
the thing about
I mean, y'all know I like him a little crazy.
a little bit, you're like Jamie Newton that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like
If
Jamie
only
Newton
Dr.
followers.
Sean. Shout out to Dr. Sean and Jenna Lewis's beautiful night together, which Mark
Wait,
Burnett
Yeah.
describes in his book as being one of the three or three, four, or five most defining moments of their lives that they will cherish with such times as
I
them
think they
losing
did.
their virginity.
He wanted
They
them
did.
to Burnett clearly wanted them to like
get it?
obviously.
It was just never happening because no woman was going to have sex with Dr. Sean.
See,
It
see,
would have been.
On that cast. No hate to Sean. None of the women on that cast are gonna hook up with Dr.
see. Okay,
I
so
am so
I,
glad Dr. Sean survived over Dirk because I think
Oh, yeah.
Sean is ultimately the better character. But
for
I
sure.
would have loved that alternate universe where they make Dirk and Jenna do it.
They're
Like
not gonna
just the
send
two
Dirk
opposite
there.
ends of the sexual spectrum.
Yeah. So I was
Dirk
gonna.
would probably
I have
be
one more thing to
Jenna,
say. What I also love about the contrast of Jenna's personality is that while she does bring the fun energy side of Pagong, and that's really kind of a thing that defines the tribe. The other side of the spectrum is that you can very much tell very clearly how she would be very annoying to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yes.
yeah.
Real.
She
Yeah.
very much, again, you can obviously see pretty clearly, she very much rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah,
On
absolutely.
yeah, she's, and again, you see it in even footage of her on podcasts in the last couple of years that it's like, okay.
With the infamous Sheehan quote.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm a
Oh,
Democrat.
damn.
I'm for gun control, but I would ban gun control so I could put a gun in my mouth whenever Sheehan talks.
She
Who the
is
fuck?
awesome.
I really
He's
want to
just
see her
great.
go far on
An
50.
amazing casting choice. Like
Mhm.
what a find.
Yeah,
Like
and we
Phenomenal.
haven't even gotten into how fucking incredible her boot episode is.
oh,
Yeah.
so good. One of my favorite moments that I don't know if I've ever seen brought up, and it's proof that this show is scripted, is they have that weird challenge where Rudy wins. It's like the weird ass checkers ass
Mhm.
challenge. But they draw for orders. Richard draws the number 1, Jenna draws the number 8. Checkmate atheists. Survivor is scripted.
Ooh,
Ooh.
chills.
Checkmate.
Checkmate atheist. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, no one. The episode is not called J for Jenna, but everyone calls it J for Jenna.
It should be called J for Jenna if they were so real.
Yeah.
Dude, shout out to Jeff Probst not even using J for Jenna, the easiest layup in the world during his season
Right. That's
announcement.
that's what keeps Borneo on my number 2 spot, not number 1. That one thing.
Very true. But
It's
yeah, no.
straight up Probst not in the 50 cast reveal. That keeps Borneo at number 2 behind Survivor 43.
But yeah, that
Very true.
Jenna's boot episode is obviously phenomenal, and she plays a great part in it. And it's so many other characters will also play a fantastic part in it as well. But just seeing Jenna, eventually come to the realization that this is we should have been doing what Tagi was doing too, but now we got to fight for it, and now we think we have something here. And then Sean,
Yep.
If it happens one more time. Yeah.
but yeah,
Greg,
getting
We'll
to
change our names to Zoe and Zelda. No reason, just alphabetical
yeah,
reasons.
we'll change our names to Zoe and Zelda. That's a great moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
that's really good.
Dressed as superheroes, by the way. With the fucking capes and shit.
yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
I
I
gotta
will say
say,
again, I love
Okay,
Rudy's
that are the
voting
winners of War
confessional.
Fashion Show, which is better.
Oh yeah. I
Ooh.
love Rudy's voting confessional. It's just eliminating a big mouth.
yes,
I like
that's a great.
Greg's voting confessional.
Oh yeah, first time for
I
paranoia,
forget.
second time for irritation, and third time because my
My ear
ear
infection's clearing
infection's
up.
clearing up.
We'll get to Greg. He's
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, okay. So I will
They're
say
all
this
special
top
at this
eight,
point.
this top eight's actually going to be very interesting because I really don't know how this is going to end up ranking.
Yeah.
Well, you
I,
I
want
think I'd
to
have all of the top 8 out of 10.
see how it starts?
yeah, I'm very
Yes.
curious.
I
Bam.
know who's the yeah.
Ooh,
Ooh.
ooh, okay,
I'm
okay.
surprised I put her at 8, but I must have. Yeah,
I put her at 8
Kelly.
too.
Kelly Wigglesworth.
Kelly
Yeah.
let me
What's
just
your
get this out of the
Wigglesworth?
way. Kelly Wigglesworth is not boring.
Yeah.
No, that's
Yeah.
a hoax. That's a big myth
Yeah.
they try
Yeah,
to say.
I think it's I think the reason people think that obviously is because of what happened on Cambodia, which is obviously not a very which is obviously not exactly the thing you should be looking at when looking at Kelly Wigglesworth as a TV personality because
Yeah.
of Cambodia.
Many
She's
fans
also not a
trace the
great
dots backwards.
confessionalist.
I think
will
Kelly
say
cuts a
that.
good confessional here. In Cambodia, she could not for her life, but here I think she
No,
gets some pretty decent ones.
I was gonna say
Like
Kelly.
I
Kelly is a
think she's
very
not
good
an S
confessional.
tier. Like I think everyone
Kelly is a
else.
very good confessionalist here.
That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the issue, is that
Surrounded
the
by,
entire rest of the final like 7 are
I was
better
gonna
than
say
her.
she's surrounded by some of the best confessionalists ever. Is the issue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
My thing
And
with Kelly is like is very obviously, if you're looking at like story of the season, she is like the most important character, even more so than Rich or Rudy or Sue. Like
Sue.
she is the character.
Yeah.
Like this the season, the narrative,
She's
like Kelly is the engine that drives it. The story
she is
goes with Kelly.
she is the
Without
best.
Kelly, you don't have Borneo.
She is the best story of the season for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
She says it. She says, "How do you stay true to yourself and maintain integrity and play this game? You can't."
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
you can't.
And that's
and
why she loses in the end because,
Such a
she has to
fantastic quote, by the
she
way.
has to cut her friend off and then has a really tragic downfall at Final Tribal because of it.
I don't think she really
Mhm.
liked Sue all that much either.
No, I think
I
Sue
think
liked
that it
her a
was
lot more than
Yeah,
Oh,
yes, 100%.
obviously. But again,
That's
it's
tough too.
but
yeah.
yeah.
I
obviously on a moral ethical level, Kelly knows that voting Sue off is just,
Mhm.
She's too selfish, man. She sees the
Yeah.
tie and she's like,
yeah.
"Well, I can't risk myself."
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they
It's
didn't
just great,
know
great
how it would be
stuff.
handled at all.
yeah, they would.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't think
I don't think
production even knew how to handle
yeah,
it.
I would say production didn't know either.
They didn't have
They're
past votes
lucky.
at that
They're
point?
lucky Kelly was so selfish.
Or did Sue
Um,
and Rudy have the same, or Sue and Rich have the same pass votes, or what was it?
I don't think they knew how to.
I
I don't think they came up with the past votes thing until the next season. So because they
yeah,
knew
I
that they
love
would have to do it.
Rudy's
and I
Rudy when he's
think
voting for Sue, and he's like, "Yeah, same as before."
they both only had the one vote from the amazing 411111111 tribal council,
Mm,
if I remember correctly.
yeah, that
Yeah.
would make sense.
Because
Yeah.
Colleen votes for Rich, and then Jervis votes for Greg, crosses it out, says "Oops, Sue."
Oh, he's just like
Oh
Aubrey.
yes. Oops,
So
Sue.
Yeah, that's why
except
Jervis loses this
he
final
doesn't make a
vote.
whole production out of it.
Yeah. Jervis
Yeah.
is
He just
robbed. Get
does
it
it.
trending.
On Borneo, I buy that you don't get a second piece of paper.
100%. I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
say
Go wrong, you
another thing
definitely
I'll
do.
say about Kelly. Another thing I want to say about Kelly is like I look at Kelly and we kind of spoke a little bit earlier about how like there are people cast very specifically, and especially like when Mark Burnett is running the show, like everything is done very intentionally, very infamously. Richard Hatch was cast to be the first boot, but he went on to win the season. Like I definitely buy that Kelly was cast very clearly as like main character energy
Yeah,
of a type situation. Like they put, a 22-year-old like river rafting guide who very clearly is like in an in-between stage of life, just young and like doing whatever for work. They put her on the tribe with all the old people. The only people even close to her age are like a creepy dude who's obsessed with the idea of having sex with her, and then like a 27 year
Sean.
old
Yeah,
lawyer, like legit lawyer who's
Sean's
already
like 30.
very much. Sean is in his 30s by the
Yeah.
time
Yeah,
Borneo
yeah,
happens.
yeah.
And
That's
then
not really close to her age
like
at all.
Stacy is 27, which I guess is kind of close, but she's like a lawyer. And so
Also, the
like
difference
all
between
the people
27 and 22 is just it's
It's
way bigger than the
it's
all
difference
the
between
huge.
27 and like
all the
37.
people on Pagong who are young and like Kelly's age and are all students, or they're all in between jobs, like, and then you have Kelly who's on Tagi. So I think that they very clearly cast her intentionally and put her on that tribe so that they would have a situation where if she made the merge, she's gonna have to pick between her tribe and the people that she's very clearly gonna get along with better, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what's so good about it is you see why Sue could be very hurt, but you also see why Kelly would, be flippy floppy.
Yeah.
yeah.
She likes those people. Colleen, Jenna, they're more her speed. They have more in common. They all dress alike. At first I was thinking maybe lesbianism, but
Me too. Yeah,
Rudy.
I'm glad Rudy spelled what
Rudy.
we were all thinking.
Freaking Rudy. But yeah, no. I what I have to say mainly about Kelly is that while I think a lot of our rankings of halfway or just above halfway are because, we just kind of think, other people stand out to us more. I would not argue at all Kelly being higher if you're looking at that story
Yeah.
itself.
You throw
Absolutely
Kelly
not.
number 1 of all time, and I wouldn't blink. I'd say that's fair.
No, that's a
I
I'd
get
say
it.
that about
very
the
decent
She's
argument
remaining.
for
made
that.
it. She's
All
made
of the
an
top 8.
she's made an endgame of official rank down.
Yeah, that is true. Rank down
Very,
4.
very deserving.
Good.
Very
She
deserving.
should
I
have.
will say the first character so far, with the polls where her all-time placement is like, yeah, that is about right.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
off by
I'd
about
probably even have
off
her
Yeah,
by
I'd
higher,
have.
but, like, I get
I
it.
was gonna say
Yeah, I
off.
have her
You
around
probably
there.
get her like 15 spots higher, but like she's not like that far off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not too. Yeah,
I
not too
mean,
far off. Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not boring, although again, she as a TV presence, is she the best? No.
Yes.
Does she
Well, yeah, yeah.
is she good? Yeah.
Yeah.
She's
It's a
a 10
great,
out of 10
great.
Just
character.
because she
I
shows
just
up
Fantastic.
have
20 years later boring doesn't mean she's boring now.
Yeah.
Well, a lot
Like,
of the
in
well,
the
okay, a lot of the
relationships.
reason why she gets purpled in Cambodia is partly because I think it's pretty clear that she probably figured out that she didn't really want to be there, and two, that it's kind of just easier to purple her because why she worked on Borneo was because of mainly, not the entirety of it, but mainly because of how interesting her story was, and not
Yeah.
necessarily because of
And the fact that she's
personality.
interacting with like an actual good cast instead of the Cambodian cast.
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anglo.
And shout out to Joe. But
Oh, no.
anyways,
Joe Anglim is her best connection. of that
yeah,
season.
it, and then in a sense, Survivor really shaped her. I think a lot of her perspectives on life, losing on in a very public sphere.
Losing $1
You
million
know,
at 22
yeah,
years old by one
y-
vote.
by one random vote is what she's assuming too, but just a
Yeah, of
pure
course.
fucking coin flip. She loses
Greg.
$1 million,
Yeah.
and she feels like she sold some of her soul not to even win. Like that
Yeah.
has to fucking
Yeah.
hurt and rock your shit
Yeah.
at 22.
Mhm.
Like I I think I said this earlier. I'm very impressed how well Kelly kept it together during Final Tribal Council because I think most 22-year-olds would be on the fucking floor. Like
I would
cast
jump
any
in
of
the
these
fire.
new era 22-year-olds on that first season, they would
Oh,
be
yeah.
in tears.
Crash out. Crash
They
out.
would be
Yeah.
crashed out.
Like that girl from Love Island.
I would
Yeah.
jump in the fire.
Mhm. And we also are missing Kelly kind of catchphrasing one of the most used things in reality TV where I didn't come here to make friends.
I think
I
she's the
think
Yeah,
first
it's a
person to ever say
great
that.
quote.
Mhm.
Great
yeah,
quote.
and you hear that on every fucking TV show ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next, we have
Dr. Shaw.
go Dr. Sean.
Ah, the jerk at work.
He is awesome.
Ah, dude,
He's
I do
so
think it was
fun.
kind of fucked up though because like, why would they put them in a beach that's been overfished? Like, that's not fair.
Yeah,
Why
there's
we
no
put them
way
on
that
a
they
beach
wouldn't
is
have caught the
overfished.
fish. He has the Super Bowl 2000.
Yeah, there's no way the Super Bowl 2000 wouldn't like just constantly be reeling in fish.
He literally carved 2000 onto it. It has to work. Better than a
Literally,
real
bro.
fishing rod.
I think it's supposed to catch 2000 fish.
Yeah. Well, there weren't any, so that's clearly what the problem was.
Dr. Sean, man.
He's
Like,
Because it was a
so
Sean's
set.
hilarious. Sean's so funny.
yeah.
I think if
I'm
I
not
ever
really
get,
employing
yeah,
any strategy here, but I'm voting for Colleen. I love her. She's funny. She's cute. I love her. She's great to look at. But you know, alphabet.
Oh,
And then later he votes for Cooling. He's like, my
he
vote's not for
does.
Colleen tonight, it's for Cooling. It's a very cool girl. Like, oh my gosh.
Sean
I
Kenneth.
think every
Saved it.
time he votes for someone, he says like, "Well, I hope they don't go home," but
Yeah, like,
come on, man.
I can't
So
lie. I
is
almost kind of feel bad that I have Sean at 8 because I feel like if I was, well, I obviously, I did rewatch the season pretty recently anyway, but like, God, every time I was like, I know I have Sean at 8, but man, he is so funny.
Every
He's so
time this
funny.
guy opens his mouth, I smile.
Oh, it's gold, yeah.
I can't repeat what he says in his final counsel confessional.
Oh, the
but
calendar.
Yeah, where he's
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah, he
yeah,
was referencing
He was
he was
referencing a
referencing a
joke
calendar
Richard
that Richard said he
started.
wanted to make, where he's a
Yeah.
nude calendar.
If
Or
any of
just,
y'all have the
or,
DVD or VHS tape, it's called The Greatest and Most Outrageous Moments of Survivor. It has a lot of deleted scenes and bonus features and stuff. And you will see the scene of Richard pitching to his tribe that calendar. And Sean's just repeating the verbatim catchphrase that Richard came up with.
FNF.
But like I do get how that
Yeah.
does not look
Yeah, it comes
good
off bad if
immediately.
you don't know.
I think most people who have seen this, you know what? Sean is just such a character that I don't really think people are mad at him for using that word.
yeah, no, like I think
It's a hard guy
yeah,
to
like
say, so
it's
No one-
made pretty clear that like Sean and Richard have an interesting type of friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Sean wants
same-
to be in the game so badly,
Yeah.
but doesn't want to appear like he's a bad guy. I think that is the central conflict of Dr. Sean Kenneth.
Well, he wanted to like parlay it into an acting career, and that's why
Yeah,
he's doing all that, right?
Yeah.
Which it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
well, he became kind of a celebrity doctor. Like he did little pieces on CBS afterwards.
yes, he did.
also
And
Awesome.
also shout out Dr. Sean being from Long Island, specifically probably distance wise the closest person to me who's ever been on Survivor, and that changed.
That's really good.
My friend's mom went to high school with.
Oh my god, that's great.
dude, that's
That's
so
fantastic.
legendary.
My god, man. I mean,
Borneo happened like 10 years later, and Sean was a different kind of doctor. He could have been the modern day Dr. Miami.
Yeah.
yeah, it's
That
true.
would have been so peak. Dude,
So he
Sean's
should have been.
Snapchat stories would have been so legendary, man.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
now it's Tarzan now.
Oh god.
True.
But yeah, no. Whenever
One
I
good Tarzan moment where he's talking about Chelsea, and he says that Chelsea doesn't like her or doesn't like him because she had bad experience with a plastic surgeon before.
yes, of course.
Hold on, imagine going in to get plastic surgery, and then the doctor walks in and he's like, "Hi, I'm Tarzan."
Well,
Dude.
he's
He doesn't
clearly
go
faking it
by
for
that.
Survivor
Great.
stuff.
He
He
doesn't
doesn't
go
call himself
by
Tarzan
that
in
in
real
real
life.
life.
It's my
I
man Greg Smith, the fakest name of all time.
But yeah,
He's very
I was gonna say, Sean, I noticed so many times on this rewatch, it was like, oh my god, every single time Sean is on screen, I am just dying of laughter because he is just such an idiot.
Oh, he's
He
consistently
is
hilarious.
he
Yeah.
is hysterical.
His
Like
dad comes in
the
and
first
they try
immediate
to ask
thing
him
we
about
see,
world news, but his dad doesn't know anything about world news at all. So he's just like, "Oh, nothing's happening."
yeah, like Sue
it-
tries to ask him about, oh, how's the college basketball stuff doing? How's the stuff in Russia doing? And he's like, oh,
Stock
well,
market.
No idea.
he has a
He's just
pierced
like
nipple.
Sean, a lovable but a doof. I think
He has
that's what
yeah,
Sue
and
said.
like
pierced nipple.
The great
the pierced
Sue
nipple.
line where she's talking about the alliance, and she's like, "Yes, Sean's not in the alliance because Sean's dumb."
Sean's dumb, yeah. Then there's the first ever. I will always never forget that episode 1 scene where Sean's trying to cut that branch with his machete or whatever it is, and it's not doing anything. And then Richard gives him his knife or machete or whatever, and Sean just immediately, as he cuts it, breaks it immediately.
Yeah, in the
I love
premiere.
Sean just getting demasculated by Richard like the
Oh
entire
yeah, no,
season.
that is
Really.
a constant
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Richard will own him every single time they try to duel each other in something.
Yeah.
In the first episode where Hatch is like lecture to the tribe, and he says like, "Oh, don't try to make your point, try to help them make theirs or whatever." And he's like, "Sean, do you get what I'm saying?" And he's like, "Oh, I didn't listen to a single word you just said. I'm daydreaming."
Yeah, I know, as a joke, and yeah,
That's so raw.
Now we
My
mentioned
doctor
that
says
one of
that
the
after I talk to them
reasons
too.
we mentioned one of the reasons Dirk gets voted out is because he was like so skinny they thought he was dying. Isn't it true that the other reason is that Rich had a crush on Dr. Sean?
Yes, and
That
I
checks.
think
It is
he's
true.
From Mark Burnett's book, he specifically had a wet dream about
Oh
Dr.
my
Shaw.
god.
Yeah.
Oh
From
boy.
the words of Mark Burnett.
That is the craziest. That's the best thing said on this podcast. So
Yeah,
yes,
Yeah.
Sean
we
might owe
are
his career to Richard's
we are
fantasies, I
we
guess.
are about 2 hours and 40 minutes in, and we
But yeah,
characters.
no, I
So
do. Yeah, okay. Because let's get into more like the different aspects of Sean and why he works so well as a character, just aside from being a comedic one. Because my God, every single stupid decision this guy makes affects everybody, everybody's trajectories in the game the entire time, and that's what makes it even better, especially with the infamous alphabet strategy.
He pisses off both sides. In trying to appease to everyone, he appeases to no one.
Yeah,
It's so great.
and you know, we get we
Ah,
get we get stuff of like you know, Colleen calling Sean a puss, and we get Sue saying that he has no balls, and we get that everybody's just taking their everybody just takes their shots at Sean.
yeah.
Every
It,
single person.
Sha
There's not a single person that doesn't take a shot at Sean.
Other than his dad. His dad says that his heart is 2 times as big as his body. And Dr. Sean, he's out there. He says this tortures me every 3 days. I hate doing this. And like I believe him, but you know, he's still doing it, still trying to game the system. Like I think he's a smart guy and he thinks he's kind of outplayed it in a way to make himself look like a nice guy. And but it's just so obviously transparent to everyone out there that they're like, "Okay, motherfucker, get on it.
Yeah.
Get over
yeah,
yourself."
and he's
Again, it's just like one of those things where it's like just another character who is just all time great at getting the best content out of every single person who has to interact with them. It's just like
Mhm.
basically everybody else on this cast, obviously, but like especially Sean. Again, just another person. Fantastic content. Anybody who has to interact with him is just like blown away by how stupid he is.
Yeah. I love
Yeah.
how proud he is showing his dad Super Bowl 2000 in his bowling alley and stuff.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I think the family visit with Sean's dad, I think, is an all-time great one, and it's a great first one because I think it meant a lot. I think it would have meant a lot to anyone, but Sean is just so goofily sincere, and we see his dad being so goofily sincere
Pop.
also. Yeah, that
He's
it's
Yeah, I
like
love it. I love it.
it's
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah, there's the Super Bowl 2000. There's the freaking bowling alley.
The
There's
great moment where Sean wins the he wins the reward on the yacht, which gets him his dad. And even in this, all this niceness, he promises his girl Kelly some breakfast. But this
And of
motherfucker
course.
just
also
doesn't want to make a decision at
hold on.
all the
Speaking of
entire season. So he's like, "Hey, Kelly,
yeah,
do you are you sure you want the breakfast?" And she's
speaking
like,
of
"Sean, you won.
She's like,
You get to decide."
speaking of we forgot to mention earlier. Speaking of rewards and Kelly, the fucking reward where Kelly gets to go to the clearly like makeshift bar with probes that she watches the
Oh,
first 5 minutes, and it's the
mhm.
only footage of Survivor she's ever watched to this day.
yeah,
That's
So
awesome.
good. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that is
I
so
think she
it's
good.
said that in
insanely
the
good.
finale in the green
Mhm.
room before the reunion was the
and
only
probes
survivor she's seen.
Yeah.
to this day. And in her fucking interview she did, she's like, they're like, "Do you still watch the show?" And she's like, "No, I don't watch TV."
Yeah,
I think
and
she
I
said
believe
she
her.
doesn't own a TV.
Yeah, she doesn't own a TV, and
She's not lying.
that reward is also so funny because Gross is like, "You want a cigarette?"
That's a really good one, yeah.
That's
Love
hype.
it. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be on the iceberg for sure. We'll
Mhm.
we'll we'll
Oh,
talk about that
absolutely.
in depth.
All
Yeah.
right. You
And
wanna?
one more thing. One more thing. I think we talked a little bit about this, but the just other great scenes are every time that Sean and Dirk try to catch fish and don't succeed, but Richard catching fish and succeeding, and Sean just blames it on every single excuse in the book, like oh this water's overfished. This,
Oh yeah, the overfish stuff is hilarious.
Yeah.
It's the
It's because it
ocean.
was filmed on a set.
Yeah. I
They
Very
I
forgot to
would
true.
like
set
to
the fish.
get moving with these top 6 like rather quickly because we're approaching the 3-hour mark, and I'm also like kind of getting sleepy. So
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah.
we'll roll through
This is the thing about Borneo. We can talk for days about this.
Yeah.
yeah, it's too
And
good.
that provides me with a transition we'll do real quick. Is all characters like ranking characters is fun. We do it. Everyone does
yeah,
it. But you have to rank them in relation to one another. It's all about how it relates to one another, how they interact. So it's kind of a silly concept in a
it's
way. Like
good
I think it
setup
Oh,
really
yeah.
for who's
bestly
next.
works in just a season. So like it's like yeah, we're talking about Sean, but we're also talking about Richard. We're talking about Kelly. You know, we're talking about all these other characters every time we talk about one of them. You know,
Yeah,
so
no one's good on their own.
Hmm.
yeah.
And a good segue, I think. This is Greg Buis.
Greg Buis.
Oh my God, Greg.
I like the scene that defines Greg the most for me is a scene of him on the Pagong Beach, and he just bursts out into singing "Something's Coming" from West Side Story, and I feel like that moment just purely encapsulates Greg as a character and Pagong, really.
Mhm.
My favorite is when he gets voted out and he starts really obviously fake
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 crying.
crying.
crying. Oh, it's awesome.
And then
Yeah.
Birdie's like, I thought he was serious.
Yeah, it's like he's doing the jerk or something. That was that was a really funny one.
But
A favorite Greg moment of mine is after um Pagong loses that final tribal immunity, and he's like, "All right, who did it? Who did it? Who counted the chickens before they hatched?" Me and like the like fucking lizard like killed all their chickens while they were gone or whatever.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's like it's so beautifully perfect in both ways. And he, you know, he's clever enough to make that
Yeah.
reference both ways. It was
Hmm.
totally on purpose because
Yeah.
he's one of the smartest people who've ever been on
Mhm.
Survivor.
There is
No.
truly no other human being quite like Greg Buis.
yeah,
Like he is
Yeah.
just such a unique
One of
human.
one.
Yeah, I mean, he's clearly smart enough to like know everything that's happening out there, and he's just trying to have fun with it and be a troll. Like he knows obviously the show is gonna want him and Colleen to get together, and he treats the whole thing like a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one who got them to vote out Jeff Probst at the first trial they went to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
This motherfucker
it,
flirts back with Richard.
yeah.
He does, yeah.
He tried out the whole gay thing.
Yeah. In his final confessional before his tribal, he he's talking about how like, he understands what the game, and then he gets distracted by a butterfly.
Yeah.
No,
no.
flying
He gets
fish.
distracted by whoa, cool flying fish.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, that good old fear and self-preservation, if that's what the game's gonna devolve into, he doesn't want a fucking part in that. That's
Yeah.
boring. And that's you know, I don't think that was a sentiment that only he thought. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people, whether it be at home or on the island, thought the same thing. Like, wow,
Mhm.
this is this really how it is? Is it really that simple? Just big number beats little number?
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I obviously, as you can look at these rankings, I have Greg the highest out of anybody here, and just the thing I've always just loved about Greg as a character is just that he really just feels like more so than any other person just this insanely unique individual that like how the hell did you get this man on TV? How the hell did you find this guy? Where did you find this guy?
Burnett
And
had
Yeah,
balls putting
everybody.
Greg on TV because, like, why the fuck would you ever put Greg on TV? Like,
I know, it's crazy.
like this guy's just gonna fuck it up in terms of just the production of it too. Like, he's actively causing problems. They're, you know, he's he would like. I'd hear stories about they'd mic them all up and he'd throw off his mic pack
Yeah.
just
yeah,
to
he's
make
just
them
Like
like
do it
the
all
killing
over
it.
ultimate.
again.
He's just like
Yeah,
the
he's the
ultimate symbol of rebellion, and you just have no idea what this guy's going to do next. And
Mhm.
in a way, just his random actions that he's doing, he kind of becomes a leader figure for this
Mhm.
yeah,
for Pagong,
Yeah.
and that's kind
He's
of what makes him so unique, so great. And with as far as the argument of I think what Greg, has a little bit of that role there is defining that tribe a little bit as like this. he just wants to, lay down, do his thing, but he always kind of just becomes the leader of that whole that tribe a little bit. And
Yeah, him and
Yeah.
Gretchen, absolutely.
yeah,
His
Which
Yeah,
does bring up
I
the
was gonna say like when I said earlier that Gretchen is like she basically represents Pagong as an idea, I would say Greg represents Pagong as a group.
yeah,
Yeah, he has the personality.
yeah. He has the
I
personality.
would
He has the personality to make up. He has personality, and he kind of just put. And obviously, the relationship with Colleen, fantastic stuff. You could
Absolutely.
and I love how much they both play it up. Like you can tell production really wants them to get
it's
on
all
with
about
it.
sex.
Yeah, like they talk about it in confessional. They kind of just make a joke out of the whole thing, both of them, and that's what just makes it so fantastic. And he obviously has great stuff with Richard as well at the merge, and they have their little talks. And Richard discusses with Greg about how I think religion is what destroys our society, and you know
Something you could only say on a summertime TV show because no one's
Yep.
watching.
literally, bro.
Um,
And
that oh, um,
it's a very funny dynamic of both of them think that they're manipulating the other person into their bidding, when in
Yeah,
reality
it's a
they're just
battle of
kind of going
wits.
in a circle.
yeah. I there are two other Greg moments I want to point out. The coconut phone is pretty cute.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
coconut phone's
that's a
fun.
good one.
This one's a fun one.
Yeah, and then obviously his video,
His video.
his extremely suggestive video with his
How
sister that gets
something that
Rudy.
only would happen on
Mhm.
summertime TV because they didn't give a fuck about summertime TV. That's so beautiful about this first season.
Yeah. Fucking. I mean, Rudy just straight up uses the word incest. Greg is like, "What is everyone gonna think? Sexual," and it's just like, holy shit.
We know what Rudy thinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Yeah,
couple more
he was
days
gonna
and we'll
kill him.
kill him. Yep.
That gets Greg to break character. You see Greg like
Yeah.
break a little bit, which
Hmm.
goes to my point I wanted to bring up is, you know, I don't necessarily think all of Greg's actions were random. I think he
Oh no,
was smart enough
he was
to,
intentional with everything he
yeah,
did for
put
sure.
out an image, a very intentional crafted image, and try to
Hmm.
play it off like he's not doing that. And for
Yeah.
whichever reasons, like I know Mark Burnett says it's because Greg's ego couldn't handle losing. So he wants to pretend like he's not even trying,
I think that's
which
absolutely part of it.
I
Yeah.
I do see in the season. That makes sense for a motherfucker. This guy went to Brown.
Yeah.
You went
Yeah, he's an Ivy
yeah,
League graduate, so I think that definitely makes
yeah.
sense.
That's an Ivy League ass thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think
so
that Greg is not used to losing things, and whenever he is looking at losing something, he's just like, "Ah,
well, I
I
wasn't
never tried
trying.
to begin with." Yeah,
Yeah, I know.
if I
And
tried, I would have won.
He's
Mike,
Oh,
you
and
can
just awesome.
of course, we'll end it with the fucking pick a number. Like, what the
yeah,
fuck?
that
That is
is
still like
that is
one
the
of the most
Great,
insane
perfect
great
question.
fucking
ending.
trolls.
There is no
And
better way to end that final tribal and to be the deciding vote than pick a number between 1 and 10.
yeah,
And that,
and like
Yeah.
again, we all know
so
that
good.
his answer to what the correct number was whatever Richard picks. But
Yes,
Yeah, that's something he eventually ends up claiming. I
I
I
believe it.
I believe it.
I mostly believe it, but like I wouldn't be surprised too much either way. But I do think he ended up just respecting Richard more. That's a very
Hmm.
I someone who went to Brown, I think, votes for Richard. I
Yes.
don't
Yeah,
think they're gonna say they lose the game to fucking community college dropout Kelly Wigglesworth.
Yeah,
Like,
and
yeah, with her meth
Greg.
head boyfriend.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be cool if you won, dude. We should whatever he says in that
You gotta
little.
wonder how many jury votes she lost because they saw her boyfriend.
Yeah, no, like yeah, Greg is
Probably
so
4.
good. Like he's
Yeah.
like I love
Probably
all these
Greg.
people,
Probably
but
5 if you include Richard.
yeah,
Oh
like I
my
love all
gosh,
these
this
people,
guy.
but like I think the biggest reason of all for Greg being my 3 on this cast is just that I just love how much of a troll this man is.
Oh
it's
yeah, he's
so
setting out to
good.
ruin the show, and he
And
makes it
that
better. But
the beautiful editing, I wish they would do this more. It drives me crazy they only do this in Borneo where they it's decided by one vote, perfectly Greg's vote. So they show every voting confessional but
Everyone except
Greg's
for Greg.
because Greg doesn't
Yeah.
spill the beans. And I'm like, why don't they do that in Outback? Why don't they do that in Marquesa, Thailand? It's like all stars. I think
They do. They
that's a
do.
great
They do get
editing
pretty close
technique.
in more cases.
Mhm.
They show like five of those votes.
Caleb
Oh,
has
I
to
didn't know
step
it was
in to defend
5.
Marquesa, so
Okay.
for any
My
opportunity.
bad.
Mhm.
I
All
I
right.
I, I just remember V is not for victory.
Yeah.
Oh,
Anyways,
for
They
next
sure.
up,
show
next.
Zoe.
Mhm.
I think it's Zoe,
Sean and Pascal, you got
Hassan,
both of them.
obviously, Sean Pascal, and
John.
then
John.
yes, and then John.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyways,
All
next
right,
up,
number
we're going to
5.
dead soon. Colleen.
Khalid.
All
I thought she'd
right.
be higher. I thought
So
she'd be
cute.
third.
This whole top
Deserved
five
better.
is so good. So
Yeah.
like,
I love that.
One of
I
the
love
best
that picture, by
speakers
the way.
ever.
That is so good. The of
I
the all the
love
gongs of Joel Jervis, Colleen, and
The
Greg.
list.
I love Colleen
Oh,
just
Colleen's
getting more
perfect.
fed up as the season goes.
Yeah.
As it's
Yes.
playing out in front of her eyes, she is the surrogate.
Yeah.
It's
Like,
amazing that we have an America's sweetheart that's that mean.
yeah,
Like, I was
another
thinking for
Go
her,
get
I
your
oh,
think
go get
it's
your
liposuction.
liposuction
yeah.
and go home.
another perfect representative for Pagong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, obviously, she's the last one. She
Mhm.
does. She represents Pagon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
She
She's
represents
using her
the
civic
audience's
knowledge.
just complete annoyance with how this season is going.
Oh man.
Yeah. And she calls out Richard on his shit. He's like, oh,
Oh yeah,
he's
she
Yeah.
doing
hates
the
that guy.
naked thing for shock value. And Colleen
She's a
loves that
great
she gets under his skin, you know?
she's a great foil to literally every single person on this cast that she interacts with because she can't stand anybody on this cast except for Greg. So she
Yeah.
just like is just like an awesome contrast to every single person because she's like, God, I can't stand Richard. Kelly's so fucking fake. Sue is old and annoying. It's like
So another one of my
incredible.
favorite
Uh
bits where she's talking about they're talking to the jury and she's like, no one really wants either of these people to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love her jury speech. She goes up, does the pointing thing, and she asks what values does it take to win the game or something. And Richard says, get knowing everybody. And she calls him on that immediately. I forget what the Richard uses a specific word, and it's like, oh, well, you didn't do that well on the game earlier. That Richard got like 2 correct answers on
Yeah,
in
Yeah.
the
that.
game
But
where they had
Richard
to know
actually does.
about each other.
And I will be fair, Richard does give a very good response to that. So
He
I got.
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
He gives a great response, but I love that she can't even help herself during this.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
okay, I need to just shut you the fuck up and be like, huh, didn't you just suck ass at that thing we were supposed to like know
Her
about us?
her voting confessional for Kelly to win is also like one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah,
She's like,
go
yeah,
start
why not,
a
Kelly?
kayak company or something.
Hopefully you become a better person with this.
I thought it
Become
was
a
like, hope
better
maybe the
person.
money will make you nice. I thought it was
I
that.
love
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
yeah. Oh, it's so good. I came in voting for the other
America's
person, but
sweetheart, by the way.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's how America felt. They hated those four so much that Colleen could be America's sweetheart because she was mean to them all the time.
Yes.
one of my other favorite
So
moments is
awesome.
the stupid ass dog food moment in where they both tribes get dog food and they try to figure it out. And Khalid was like, "What if it's dog?" Shit just fucking killed me.
Man.
Like a lot of people have
So
funny
good.
reactions to it, and Greg says something like, "I choose my chemicals and preservatives wisely," and that would just
Oh
throw it
yes,
all
that is a
off
great
balance,
Greg quote.
which is a
I
great
choose my
quote.
preservatives wisely.
But
I
Colleen
mean,
just like, "Oh, what if it's
Colleen's
dog?"
dropping great quotes the whole season. She's consistently so funny.
Quote
Yeah,
machine for sure.
yeah, on
I forgot to
Pagong.
mention this in the Greg part, but I also love the quote about how he says when he's talking about eating rats is like, I imagine sauce is of the utmost importance.
Yeah, I
Oh
don't
man,
think he says a single serious word the whole season.
when Colleen's talking about Pagong, she has that one great line where she says, "I'm like, I wouldn't say we're cocky. I just say we're the best."
I just say with best. Yes.
She's talking about her and Greg, and she's like, when Greg and I hang out, it's all sex.
It's all about
We're trapped on
sex.
a desert island. We're
Oh,
horny.
like
Again, I think
Colleen is on the levels of troll with Greg. Like
Oh,
for,
I was gonna say
Yeah,
her
like
She's
and
that's
a
why
Greg
they
real
got
horse
along
so
so
for
well.
well.
Greg.
Her and Greg get along so well because they're both taking the process about as seriously as the other. Colleen
Yeah.
just does a, in my opinion, obviously I ranked her above Greg just by a couple spots, but like in my opinion, I just love the way that she approaches it a little bit more
She's
than Greg
talking about
because
that challenge. It's like,
hers is so much more subtle.
yeah.
yeah,
Greg's is like very, over the top and hilarious in its own way, but hers is just so subtle and so funny in the exact same way.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do like that scene at the final six challenge between her and Kelly,
Her and
where
Kelly, yeah.
Mhm.
where Colleen is just like, if I'm off this platform, it's me, and then Kelly is just like kind of wishy washy.
Yeah, you know
But
what's
like,
crazy about it? You know what's crazy about it? They didn't even want to get rid of Colleen originally that round. They wanted to get rid of Kelly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Colleen, her final words are, "If I was on Toggy, I would have won."
That would probably been true.
I genuinely
Yep.
believe her.
Possible. Ah, man, yeah, she's great. I love that. I love when she wins the reward challenge and she gets the barbecue and
she's
they're
like,
like,
everybody.
and you get to invite someone, everybody, and just like, no, fucking choose one person.
Everybody.
I love the
Again,
trivia thing, and she's like, I was about to be like, it's like we're on a game show, and then I was like, wait a second, we are on a game show.
show.
Mhm.
again, I feel like I
Just
say this for
constantly.
literally every. I feel like I say this for literally every single character, but it's like every single person that interacts with her is made better by interacting with her.
Yeah, I think we've been
Mhm.
saying that since like Dirk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
just
a
how great
sign of a
this
great
is.
cast and a great season because every,
Yeah,
it all matters. It's all connected.
Yeah.
All conflict.
and of course, like
Everyone on this
just like
cast has good relationships between
basic.
everybody.
Absolutely.
And of course, just like obviously not even just like discounting her personality, but just like on a basic storyline level, it's like being the last Pagong is just so monumental and important that it's going to give her a massive boost anyway because she's the last one that like feels like untainted almost because
Yeah.
Mhm.
by the end you're like, I mean, Dr. Shawn is full of shit.
Yeah,
It's
the
like
last person
she is
that's not corrupted.
the last innocent one.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like when they've then like when she gets eliminated, the final word segment, they
Sorry,
put like
guys, be
very
nice.
sad music over it instead of the normal one. Like
Oh,
that.
I thought you
Yeah.
were saying the final words, like when she's saying the last thing.
Well,
after
yeah, like with the
each
final
she's
words,
like,
like
all
the
right, guys,
music.
be nice.
Yeah, with the music,
But be
like
nice
they
to each other.
change the
and
music
whatnot.
to like very sad, somber music, as if it's like this is the end of the innocence, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, we
It's
don't
the
get that
death
for
of the
Dr.
song.
Sean.
Sorry. What was that? Did you say the end
Yeah,
of
of course.
innocence?
Forget Marquesas episode title with Gabe.
Mhm.
Yep. Let's next
All right,
up
number 4,
is Rudy.
Rudy Bosch.
Rudy. What
I
Travis
a
got top
stud.
three.
I will
Hell
say,
yeah.
I love Rudy. He reminds me of both of my grandfathers in both amazing ways. Um, specifically my grandfather that is currently still alive. He's just man of few words, direct. Obviously Rudy is
Homophobic.
American and my papu is Greek, but they are just very, very man of few words, witty, dry, uh way of speaking, I guess. And I don't know. Rudy's in my top 10 of all time. He's incredible.
Yeah, Mike, can we talk about 30th place, by the way?
Oops.
Oopsie.
I knew I was gonna make some sort of typo. Yeah. It's just
Yeah.
like Lianka.
Yeah,
Ru-
36th all time. Really proud of the community for that one. Honestly, thought he would have gone a lot lower because he's a little objectionable, but he is. I think pound for pound, he's probably
He's
the
homophobic,
funniest
but he's
person on the
good.
season.
Mhm.
Yeah, he's
Pound for pound is probably
probably
the
the
funniest person
funniest
on the
person on the
show.
season.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe ever on the show. He is
Yeah, he might be.
ridiculous.
Yeah, no,
I don't
he
know who it would be.
every single
Very
time. Yeah,
inspired funny too.
Rudy's
Every
another
time I
person.
watch,
Well,
every time I watch Borneo with people, Richard and I are getting to be good friends. Not in a homosexual way though. That's for sure. That every time that gets up.
Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
every time Rudy talks,
That
I
might be
mean,
the
it's
funniest thing anyone's
just
ever
great.
said. We're friends, but not in a gay way. Like, come on.
Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he? I mean, he's got a lot to him too. I mean, a lot of the
Yeah.
political conversations they have, Richard and Rudy,
Yeah.
are.
I just
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
say one.
I would
I want
say
to say
most
one of
of
the best
I would
Rudy.
say
One
most
of the best Rudy confessionals is when Richard's getting naked and then he's like, when I ask my friends, what we're gonna be doing, what I was doing out here, who I was hanging out with, I'll say, well, a queer running around bare ass half the time for one thing.
I love your Rudy impression, man.
uh I would say basically all of the political content on the season, whether it's like, you know, um lesbianism from Rudy or the Jervis child out of wedlock, like all the political conversation that the season has basically has Rudy commenting on it because he's
He always has
always
a
talking
problem.
about how
Mhm.
yeah, he always has an issue with it, which I love.
Yeah, like
Him and Brady are like perfect parallels too.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
another
I
thing where
mean,
it's like
BB refuses
people.
to adapt, and Rudy has that confessional episode moment where he's like, they're not the ones that need to change. I'm the outsider. I have to change.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's what
don't even know
I
what
makes.
an
know what
MTV
MTV
is.
means.
I don't even
And
know what
Rudy,
MTV means.
and despite Rudy's obvious homophobia, he very quickly becomes friends with Hatch, and they were friends for the rest of Rudy's life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
You know,
Despite his words of saying when he's done here, he'll shake everyone's hand and hope to never see him again.
I
yeah,
think that was him playing up.
yeah.
I think
See,
that was bullshit.
what's okay?
That adds like no one knew what a success Survivor was going to be. Even the people that thought Survivor was going to be big, I don't think they knew how it was going to hit.
Yeah.
So like that really could have been it. Survivor really
Yeah.
could have been a one season thing that a handful of people watch in the summer. And yeah, Rudy would have no reason to ever see Richard again because Rudy's going to enjoy retirement with his wife in Virginia,
Yeah.
Mhm.
with his grandchildren.
Mhm. And then
Yeah,
they
Like
no.
eventually
CBS
Survivor.
isn't flying them out to meet each other.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of my people. This is another thing that I don't think people really realize a lot of the time. It was so important to have somebody like Rudy on this season because, Mark Burnett was obviously trying to make this a little bit more of an unscripted drama at the start, but in order to have those massive, political discussions that they have, you got to have somebody like Rudy on the season because
Who's not going to agree with everybody? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
because he's obviously like an insanely prejudiced individual. But
Super conservative. Yeah.
what really makes his story just so fantastic is obviously the fact that even though he is an insanely prejudiced individual, he and Richard are able to get along really well because they have very similar work ethics. They both work really well, and Rudy respects that. And
Yeah, he's fat, but he's good.
Yeah.
yeah, he's fat, but he's good.
I thought he
Yeah.
said he's queer, but he's good.
No,
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 he's fat, but he's
he's
good.
fat, but he's good.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I
and
also
And
I mentioned
it's
this earlier in the podcast.
fun.
I mentioned this earlier in the podcast before, but obviously the other great thing is how well Rudy and Richard not only get along really well, but also contrast each other really well when they're talking about the issues of the Greg stuff and the Jervis stuff and every single. And especially as we get further and further into the season, it is so clear that Rudy just stops caring about everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they merge, and he's upset that he's gonna have to share the shelter with more people.
Yeah.
He's like actively stepping on people in the nighttime in the shelter because he
I
doesn't give a
love
fuck.
Forgot
yeah.
about that.
I love the Blair Witch challenge where his answer to everything is just I don't know.
Uh,
What was the thing that
He
you have
fucking
to
wins the
name
immunity
before
challenge
tribal
too.
council? I don't know.
And then he runs off.
His jury speech also all timer.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So good.
I don't have anything to say to these two. I just needed to say that I feel and like we lost yesterday.
Rudy is such a great final
Yeah.
juror.
Mhm.
Like the last
Yeah,
person
it is
voted
the
out
most
being
Rudy thing ever that he
Oh, God.
loses because his hand slipped.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just forgot. Yeah.
He just forgot
Yeah,
that the hand was supposed to be there.
he tries to cheat too.
mhm.
It's he's
Yeah, they don't even notice. Kelly needs to call it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Rudy,
Burnett's like, I can't get you out of this one, Rudy. Sorry.
yeah. I love his final voting confessional. It's like, he's fulfilling the alliance.
My end of the deal.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I also love, of course, famously he says it in All Stars, but he's also kind of threatening people in this one that, we'll have to break someone's kneecaps
yeah,
or
we'll have to
something
break
if
the
the vote
kneecaps.
doesn't go the way that they said it would and shit. I'm like, all right, this motherfucker does have a lot of friends, so
He does.
he's probably the survivor that has killed the most people.
Oh yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah,
like
Probably.
for sure.
he was a renowned military person. He was like almost a celebrity in that field.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He would have
like,
had a Wikipedia page even if he never played Survivor.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. What a great character. I think the perfect person to be the last vote off
Yeah,
of
what a gem!
Survivor.
What a gem of a character! Like
I don't know.
every single time, man. Every single time this man just said something so ridiculous. It's just too
Yeah.
funny.
And it's
I
crazy
know.
because like he didn't really get like an insane screen
Yeah,
fan
Yeah,
like
just
favorite.
every inch that he had was perfect. That's
Hmm.
really it. Just
yeah, like he's
anytime he
definitely
got
yeah, as we move
got him.
forward into the season, like when we hit the merge, he's definitely one of the people that gets lower amount of screen times than the other people, but every single time he's on, it's just banger after banger after banger.
Yeah. And he even says it in a way where he's like, "Yeah, those first couple votes, I was on the hot seat, but now no one cares." Or
No one notices
whatever.
me.
Yeah, whatever. It's like, yeah, wow. And then that really illustrates kind of the game and how the priorities have shifted in a
Hmm.
different way. It's like, oh, now no one sees Rudy as a threat to, kick ass in these challenges or socially
Yeah.
manipulate the politics of camp. It's like, all right,
Yeah.
Rudy, he's gonna be there. He's gonna be there to the fucking end.
I mean, the reason you can get away with giving Rudy less screen time is because he's one of those guys. I've said this, I think, about Courtney Yates, because people are always like, oh, she only has like 25 confessionals on China or whatever. And it's like, well, like Courtney, Rudy is someone where you can, one Rudy confessional is worth 10 of anybody else's. You
Mhm.
can
Yeah.
give him way less because it's all so good and so memorable. It feels like he's getting just as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
Like he's just so, even on All Stars where he's in 2 episodes and he's sick for one of them, and it's like
Yeah, he's the best
he's
character
still
there.
he's still the best part
So
of All
good.
Yeah.
Stars.
Yeah, he's still delivering
Speaking
bangers.
yeah. Speaking of that, it is pretty crazy that since Borneo, the only person that is older than Rudy that's ever played Survivor since is
Yeah,
Rudy.
it's Rudy the second time. Yeah,
Here's
Yeah.
Rudy the second
Yeah.
time.
that's crazy. They got a 75-year-old on the
Yeah,
island
and like
now.
the
Like
only person that
60 is probably the hard line.
yeah,
I think
and
at this point.
the only person that even comes even close to that is Joe
Rudy's
Del
friend.
Campo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone
Joe
else in a
Biden.
similar
Joe Biden.
field where they are gonna be super fucking buff at that
Yeah.
age, like peak physical for
Hmm.
their mid 70s.
My dad's 67. He said he's going to apply for the show, so we'll see.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him.
I think
He's
Very
in,
cool.
he's in crazy shape. He's
yeah,
been like a
because
professional runner his entire life,
yeah.
so he'd be
I
fine.
know I know
Love to my
on
dad. He
Survivor
would not do very well.
49, the legend Matt from Wyandanch, his age is still not known, but it's implied that he's in his 60s. So
It's
Matt
implied.
from Wyandanch.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
60-plus-year-old man from Wyandanch. I
That's great. What part
can't
of New
believe
York was Mike Barassi from?
not Long Island.
Who knows,
Uh,
man?
we
I
won't
don't
get
know.
too deep into other seasons,
We'll
but
talk about Mike Barassi when he's number one on our Samoa ranking.
Uh-huh.
on our Tocantins ranking.
When we
And
can
when we
talk
get into
about
our
his
proper cast assessment
balls
for
falling out of his shorts.
when we talk about our proper
Yes,
cast
bro.
assessment for Survivor 49, we will discuss not even just Matt, we will be discussing a lot about a wine dance.
Oh yes.
Nate
No
Moore,
mythical
let's
place.
discuss him. How
Yeah.
he's ruined movies.
Yeah. Anyways,
Let's take a look at number 3.
Yep.
Jervis.
There we go.
Who I mean,
Jarvis.
Never nervous Peterson. Holy
Fuck,
shit.
I
The
think you should
fucking
have
swag on
included
this
the
guy.
Jarvis.
okay, so I just want to say the 0 to 10 polls numbers are up there. I realized this like 2 slides ago, and I was on my phone trying to fix it, and it didn't register in the slideshow, and now I'm sad.
Oh. Do
Jervis
you
is
want to
88th.
quickly say them? Oh, 88.
Jervis is 88th of all time.
Okay.
Too low.
With
Too
yeah,
too
too
low.
low. I have him in my top 30
I
of
think
all
I have
time.
Jarvis Endgame.
He's such a
Yeah,
star.
same.
He's endgame for me.
Endgame for me.
I
Yeah.
mean, again, we talked about Jervis being in a lot of movies or whatever after the show, and it makes sense. I mean, he is an undeniable presence on screen. Just
Mhm.
like
I think I
everything he
mentioned this
says.
on the. Oh no, you can go, Caleb. I thought you were
No,
finished.
no, so everything he says is entertaining. Everything he does is entertaining. He's just
Hey,
like
he's
just a
perfect. No,
star. Very, very, very clearly a star.
Just oozing charisma. Just
yeah,
every
it's
fucking and it's natural too. Like, some people it feels like they've rehearsed it. Like, we're gonna talk about snakes and rats, but Jervis's response to snake and rats, I think, is just as good. Like,
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's part of the
sounds like
snakes and
being
rats
a sore loser.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Jervis
it's sick.
rips to a new one during that confessional, and
Yeah.
He
it's
does.
Yeah, I hope Kelly wins the money and stuffs it in her face.
Jervis is the one.
It's so good.
Was Jervis always voting for Kelly, or is it? I know
I think
No,
Jervis
he's
was
Colleen.
the one person
he's
that was always
he's
voting
one
for
of the
Kelly.
switchers.
Mhm.
I thought he was one
Oh,
of the switchers.
Yeah, I thought it was
I
Him and
Jenna
feel
was
like
always voting for
Colleen.
Kelly,
I
and
think
then
it was
Jervis and Colleen switched. All
I
right.
think it
Yeah,
was Jenna.
I mean,
that was
Colleen
correct.
obviously switched. Colleen says she switched.
I feel like I've
Yeah.
heard Jervis say before that he was always voting for Kelly, but like, who the
It
fuck
might be
knows?
that.
Like, I think
Yeah.
Colleen
Oh,
was the definite switcher, and who the fuck knows for the other two? I guess.
Yeah. I think Jenna
Yeah,
was always voting for Kelly.
I
She clearly
kind of
likes
think they
Kelly.
both were always voting for Kelly,
Probably.
if you wanted my perspective. But yeah. Anyways, it is just such a fucking scorched earth thing with as much fiery passion, but off the fucking top, he says this shit. You can hear him
yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of stumble over his words every once in a while because his brain is moving faster than his fucking lips at a certain point, and it's just so good. It's probably my favorite voting confessional ever. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
It deserves its spot. If
Not
Snakes and
Wendell's
Rats
on
was
Ghost
number
Island.
1, you know
I
what? That's
I do like
that's as good as Ghost Island can get, so we'll
I
It
take
do
it.
probably is the best
Wendell's
moment in Ghost Island.
it is.
Let's
I
not talk about
actually
Ghost Island, please.
yeah.
Can we keep talking? Can we switch this to a Ghost Island
But yeah,
podcast?
Jervis is
Jerv
such a he's again so magnetic, but a lot of Jervis's character is like specifically subverting the stereotypes that black men on television were receiving.
Yeah.
y
Like he's not married to his wife, but he's an active father. He's lazy, but he's like a smart guy. He's doing a lot of work
Yeah,
to be lazy.
Mhm.
yeah, he's
yeah.
actively
I
entertaining
really
everyone,
like, I
Everyone
really
loves him.
like
um
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way I really like the way they do it, where it's like all the stereotypes that he is subverting. He is inadvertently confirming them in a different way. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, they're like Jervis is a lazy sack of shit, and he's like, well, not really, but yes, he's working very hard to be lazy, like Kyle said.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
the
and
scene
and
where he's playing cards with Hatch and he's like throwing the game so that Hatch can feel like Jervis isn't all that smart.
oh
Mhm.
And
yeah,
Rich is
no,
like,
the
you know,
yeah, no, Richard and
Jervis
Jervis playing
is
the cards is really good.
allegedly a good card player. It's weird that I keep beating him.
It's weird that I
Yep,
keep beating him.
it's so good. I love the scene where, we have that it's amazing because Jervis kinda loses Pagong a couple of challenges, and there's the one where it's his leg of the race where he's, like, has to do a foot race, and he runs with all his might until he's out of view from everyone else.
Yeah.
He stops trying as hard. He, like, takes off his shirt and shit. And then he
Oh,
comes
man.
back around the corner and he starts running fucking hard again. It's so good.
He's
He's
awesome.
awesome.
And then that
Um,
same tribal council where Probst asks, he's like, does anyone here feel like they're not getting voted off tonight? And Jervis is the only one who raises his fucking hand.
He's
And
a
then when
really good socialist.
Probst asks,
Probst
does anyone
asks it
feel
the
like they
other
are?
way. Does anyone think
Jervis
they are
raised his
getting
hand
voted
again.
off? Yeah. And they're all just fucking dying. They're like, this motherfucker Jervis. Oh my God.
I mean, there's a reason
He's
he's
got 'em.
able to get away with all that, like all that bullshit he gets away with on Blood versus Water and still make the final three.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he's
Jervis.
just a crazy
Jervis is an
social
icon.
player.
I
I
love
remember,
it.
I think the first episode of the show, we were talking about people's chances on. We were talking about Christian Hubicki, and again, like you said about Christian, Funky, it's hard to vote out a cool guy. Jervis is a cool guy, and that's why no one
Yeah.
wants to vote him
Yeah,
out.
like that's what Jervis really was banking on. I mean, his whole
Yeah.
game is based on how charismatic he is, and that's really what sells his game and his character. Really, that's always been the
Yeah.
I
He's the one
I
who I think if they hypothetically merge at 8 and Pagong wins every challenge, I think Jervis is the winner of the season.
yeah.
I
I
think it's Colleen, but
Yeah,
I-
one of the
not
two.
Colin. One of the two.
I can see it either.
I Jervis's first scene in the premiere is him getting off the boat and hopping onto Pagong Beach and just screaming in a pure
It's
burst of euphoria.
it's
Yeah.
joy. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
It's
yeah.
it's like we're
He's
here.
we're this is real. He says before he has never left the city. He has never been camping. He does not go to the beach.
Yeah.
And he's out here fucking making
Go.
it work. You
Yeah.
know, like
Hell,
totally
no,
puts it out on his
remember
game.
he beat the river raft guide at her own game.
Yeah,
Well,
he sucked
Kelly
at that
sucked at that
challenge.
game.
Yeah, of course, one of the most iconic moments of Survivor. If you ask someone, I know I said it earlier. If you ask someone what they know as Survivor, a lot of times you hear they eat bugs. And who is the
He's
man
the
you
one who eats
think
bugs,
of when
yeah.
you think of someone eating bugs? Is Jervis like
yeah.
fucking going crazy, biting his shirt, like punching himself in the head, trying to swallow this damn
Punching himself
I
in
bug?
the
do
face.
love on Blood versus Water they make him eat the same bug again. That one challenge.
Yeah, they're
Fantastic.
Oh my
trolling the
god.
fuck out of Jervis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to say more about Jervis, but we are
We're pushing 4 hours.
Let me
Well, it's
get
3:25.
in
All right.
Mhm.
something I want to say about Jervis real quick before we go, because y'all mentioned it about Greg and Gretchen. To me, Jervis is the embodiment of Pagong. Like,
Yeah.
I agree.
he is the man that, like, I think
Yeah,
Greg's a
we've said
little
this
bit
about
too
half the Pagong
calculated.
tribe at this point.
Yeah,
Pagong.
we all have a
everyone-
different
Yeah,
reason for it, of
Everyone
course.
on
Oh,
Pagong,
yeah.
except for BB, is emblematic of Pagong.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's the whole
He
point.
is
That's the whole
the
point of the
mascot
tribe.
to me of Pagong, and just the way he's able to get away with everything, the way that he seems to be prioritizing fun over everything. Uh, it just totally out of his element the entire time, but chugging along, making it work. And he is just pure aura, pure swag, pure
Yeah,
charisma.
absolutely.
Jervis, never nervous Peterson. Thank you
Oral
for being
farming.
on
Yep.
Survivor.
Yep.
I love when he
Oral farming,
moonwalks
sure.
on that tile on that one
Mhm.
challenge too. That was sick.
Mhm.
I love
Oh,
Jervis.
and
so
his
much.
son being born. What the fuck?
Oh
That is
yeah, we didn't even mention
on
that.
his boot episode. Like, that's perfect. How
Yeah,
how
his
is that
son
possible?
born and they like call. It's insane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he gets a scroll
like
and a cigar. What the
the
fuck? He
cigar,
calls
yes.
he calls his baby mama and says, tell your mom I even miss her, and she won't even believe that. Like, damn. So fucking funny. And
I
he
love
gets
when
to call
Kelly threatens to punch him if he doesn't
yeah.
call her.
She puts up her fist and he's like, yo, chill. I'm gonna call my baby's mother.
Oh
So
man.
good.
Mhm.
What a great
And then
final
And then
Rudy
of
episode.
course we got the
finally
great confessionals from Rudy and Richard after that as well. But yeah, no, that's a moment that you would never see on any other season. Like that is just
Yeah,
Yeah.
peak
that is one
content.
of those best moments of the season that, like, of any season, and it just happens to be on a season where there's like 30 best moments of a normal
Yeah.
season.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anyways, moving on.
The very obvious
These
top
were
two.
always gonna be the top two. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, probably unanimous. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
jeez.
it's
How could you
unanimous.
do that to her?
Yeah, I did put Sue from 47 on there because I looked up Survivor Sue Hawk now, and everything that came up was Sue from 47. So okay.
Yeah,
I
you
will
should
be
have got
fair.
her a
I don't think
makeover
I
after
will
All
be fair
Stars.
though.
Oh, and
I don't think Sue would necessarily want a picture of her up from nowadays anyway.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sue's into QAnon now. It's
Yeah, but who isn't?
yeah.
Yeah.
Caleb believes in
It's
that shit
oh my
too.
Yeah. Oh, and if it wasn't obvious,
Yeah,
yeah.
obviously.
But
Yeah. Big joke.
back on Sue. I feel like we can get through the top two because I think everyone on the planet knows why these two
Are
could
fantastic.
realistically just be the two best characters ever.
But I
Yeah,
also
Yeah.
think that people have kind of lost the reasonings
next
of
level.
why they are such a great character.
Sue's just
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, go ahead and get into that.
Yeah,
Sue's goated.
like Sue is obviously goated, but I think one of the big things I really wanted to talk about with both Sue and Richard is because obviously we know why they're great. Everybody here in this community that we are a part of knows that they are fantastic characters. They're always like, top 5 at least for a lot of people. But I think just a lot of the general fan bases, we keep getting removed from all these seasons. We've kind of just forgotten why these two are just fantastic. And I think we really have to kind of remind people Sue Hawk really represents the heart and the tragedy of, Survivor
Borneo.
as a game, really.
Yeah, the whole show.
And
She's yeah.
everything you get about Sue is so real, so genuine. You could see this woman in your life. You probably wouldn't even like her, but you would know that she was there. She is unique in that
Yeah.
special little way.
We
America was built off alliances.
Yep. This
That's hard.
this entire podcast. Oh my god, I sound fucking exhausted right now, but this entire podcast throughout the whole thing, we have been referencing comments that Sue has made that are just complete gold. And I feel like it's only scratching the surface. Like she's up there with Rudy for just banger
Yeah.
after banger after banger.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. My mother watching the season live, she said Sue was the one she was hoping to win going into that finale. I think after Final Tribal Council and saw her speech, it was a different story, but there were a lot of people that wanted Sue to do well. Like
Yeah.
she really spoke to a lot
Well,
of
she keeps it. Yeah, she
people.
keeps it
She keeps it
real.
fucking real. Yeah.
she keeps it
And
real.
I love how she phrased that one part where she's like, "You were sweeter than me. I would have lost just to shove it in this motherfucker's face, in this
Yeah.
guy's face like that." And that's one of just my favorite things ever, where it's just like that's how raw she keeps it to her her values and
Mhm.
Yeah.
what she deems important. Where it's like um, Richard's a pompous ass that has to always make a big deal about everything and is whiny and will always be kind of a loser.
A loser in life. Um
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I think the scene that most defines Sue Hawk as a character is that archery challenge, or whatever it was with the javelin
oh,
and
Joel. Yeah,
Sue has that iconic confessional of like, if I can dog a guy on national television, that would be just make my day or whatever she says. But
yeah. She wants to
She's
stomp on Joel, wants to stomp on Richard, just fucking, all the people in her life that she thinks are just full of themselves. She wants to just
yeah,
fucking
she
rock
just
them
wants
and
to
dope
destroy
them.
them.
Yeah.
she's and obviously we've talked about both how perfect and tragic her relationship with Kelly is and how Snakes and Rats is the best moment in the history of the show.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, people have again, I think people have kind of forgotten why Snakes and Rats is such a phenomenal speech because it really and the general fan base, I'm saying, it really just completely represents how the just clearly represents the complete essence of what Survivor is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It,
It's an entire
it's so
Yeah.
show.
fucking
I
raw.
mean,
Everything.
yeah.
Just, it's a phenomenal metaphor. And when you watch Borneo next, look at um, when they use snakes and when they use rats in different scenes and the
Yeah,
little
Yep.
animal transitions
Yeah,
and when
it's
they talk about it in different times and you get to see Richard with the snake and like an actual snake and how he's able to handle that. It's great. The whole season they lead up to that metaphor really, really nicely, that simile or whatever the fuck.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I would say metaphor.
yeah, it's an amazing speech. It captures the show really well, and I think that talking about the snakes and rats should be the best lead-in to the ultimate snake.
oh yeah.
Richard Hatch.
How the fuck did this guy win the first Survivor?
Well, I mean, we saw how, but
We saw how, but like what a pompous asshole. Like
He's somehow too low on the all-time placement,
See
honestly.
how
Yeah.
see this
yeah,
is the
he
thing.
I have
is.
him number
We talk
one
about how the hell did this
ever.
guy win survive how the hell did this guy win? But oh my god, it is so amazing that he wins.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
Jesus.
literally cast to be the first boot. He wins
Yeah.
the whole thing.
We were supposed to laugh at him, and now
Not
not
he
with
has
him,
$1 million.
and we left with him.
He definitely doesn't have that anymore, but
Yeah,
not
yeah,
anymore, yeah.
yeah.
But I think the big
Prison
thing,
changes a man.
you know, I talked about this a little bit when I at the start of the podcast, but when I first watched Borneo, and obviously, I think a lot of people say this, but immediately when I first watched, Richard was like that immediate person that I just clicked with immediately. Like I just really wanted to see. I just knew I needed to see so much more of this guy because the way he would talk about the way his beliefs on the game are and his personal views on how he sees the world was so crazy to a I'm sure it was so crazy to a TV audience back then in 2000, just the fact that they would cast somebody like this, that it's almost like a fever dream. Like you would have never imagined that back then. And
Hmm.
obviously I've talked about the way the Richard and Rudy relationship affected I was stunned that how that could happen in 2000, but
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
the thing, I think the scene, my favorite Richard scene, and I don't know if I think we could probably go around the room to see what their favorite Richard scene is, but my favorite Richard scene will always be when he's playing with a snake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Oh
that was mine.
Yeah,
Oh,
like that
man.
is
yeah,
it's a
the
great
way
one.
he can just casually just throw this deadly venomous snake in the water like that. That just shows you
yeah,
everything about what this guy's about.
yeah. Speaking of
Richard in the water,
speaking
such a
of
marvel.
Richard and snakes, it's a pretty pivotal thing when Richard, walks around with his snake hanging out.
His snake hanging out, yeah.
Yeah. I I love the quote he says, "If I live my life based on what other people think, then I'm not living my life."
Exactly.
Which I
I love
yeah,
that.
which I think is a really, really interesting, great thing for him to say, and it really sums up the moment. But, at the same time, I do think Richard is someone who acts to provoke, like
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
he is
Yeah.
someone trying to get a reaction out of people. And Colleen calls him on it. I think some other people call him on it at times like that. Like he is a natural shit stirrer.
Yeah.
hmm
And
Yeah, he
as we
Yep.
unfortunately see in All Stars.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the rest of his public life. That
the rest of his public life, yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, no, I love the way that they I do really I do love the way that they handle Richard's nakedness, because they could have easily just made it into the caricature that it was in All Stars, but that's not what they do, and that's why every scene involving it is just fantastic.
mhm.
Hmm.
They
Yeah,
clearly lay out
Richard
as to why.
yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people look at I know a lot of people look at nakedness as sexual, but that's just not what I see it as. And you get contrasting viewpoints, you get somewhat understanding viewpoints, and you get the whole shebang.
Yeah, and they vote for him to win $1 million.
Yeah.
It's
Crazy.
phenomenal. Richard also has a great line towards the end of the season where he says, Tribes never really existed. This is a
Oh
he's
yeah.
talking about how this is an individualistic game by nature.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
their tribes were convenient. Alliances were convenient. You know,
Yeah. He's also
and
just probably the best narrator ever, probably most likely.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
really shows just the, collectivism versus individualism kind of deal that also is, in the background of this season where ultimately that's what it boils down to and not everyone caught on to that is, you got to look out for number 1.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Richard's like one of those guys that you felt like you could just be like created in a lab or something. You never would have imagined somebody like this just existed in the real world.
Absolutely. It's and he's a not the greatest human being.
Oh
To
yeah,
say the
no,
least.
for sure. This is obvious. This is obvious to
Yeah,
anybody, but
we could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
I'm
But
sure we'll get more. And
let's
I'm
Obvious.
sure
go ahead
I'm
and
sure whoever does All Stars will get more into that side of him. But
yeah. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
do think we need to talk about the final immunity challenge.
oh
Yes.
my god,
Where
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
All
yeah,
time iconic
yeah,
reality
all-time
TV moment.
iconic, what the fuck was he doing?
Yeah.
Was what
I think this next slide. No, it's not.
yeah.
yeah,
I was like, oh wait, did we have
You did on the
um
story. First
yeah, we
story.
did.
Yeah. Okay. When
Yeah,
we
Yeah.
here,
yeah.
I'll
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, you have the picture of it.
I
But
do.
yeah, just such a great moment. Of course they do the I love how they used to make a final immunity challenge seem so grand and ceremonial and stuff like that. They walk through coals and
Yes,
Mhm.
chant in the
100%.
mud and it's very spiritual in a way, but it's give it all you got is like kind of the theme in
Mhm.
these early final
Yeah.
immunity challenges. And here we have Richard
And now we have some
who
motion.
yeah, yeah. But, anyways, here we have Richard. It's time to give it all you got. How long can you put your hand on this fucking tiki idol?
And he
And,
and
does.
he's
yeah,
just smart enough to outthink the system.
yeah, and everyone is like, "What the fuck?" Everyone at home, everyone on the island. Kelly can't believe it. Rudy can't believe it. Probst can't believe it. And, we're lucky enough that Richard is enough of a, kinda pompous asshole where he plainly explains the strategy
Right
later
in front of
to
everybody.
it
Yeah.
right in front of
In
Rudy
front of both of them.
while Richard is eating like a fucking orange, where he's like, "Yeah, no, so I kinda thought about it and, good luck." And he drops, and then later
Good
he
luck.
explains like, "Well, I knew there was no way I was beating Kelly, and, so, yeah, I'm just trusting Rudy to do it." And it's like Rudy's like, What the fuck, man?"
God,
And
I really
Kelly
wish
can't believe it.
I really wish I could have. Sometimes I just think about it, and I really wish I could have been there just to see the reaction to Richard winning.
I would
Oh
have
man.
dropped
Yeah.
the camera if I were a cameraman and
Speaking of
Richard just dropped off, and
yeah.
he doesn't
Yeah,
even pretend it's an accident. That's the if a better player would pretend it's an accident.
yeah. Speaking of
He is
that, that's
making
a
it
good
a
transition into the
purposeful
next slide.
decision.
Yep, which and his win and the
The
impact of the
impact of the
season.
season, man. Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Wow.
think it's lost on the fans that people hated that Richard won.
Mhm.
Jeez, yeah.
Not popular.
Not
I think
popular.
they show at the
Machiavelli.
reunion. They show at the reunion, I think, a poll of who is being rooted for by the fans, and I think I wanna say he's last?
I think Sue is now in last because they hate her from Snakes and Rats, but Richard's not that far behind. It's like
Yeah.
less than 10%. I think Sue is at like 2% now. Kelly's at like 40 and Rudy gets the rest. Something
Yeah.
like that. But
Yeah, because
yeah,
I've heard
no.
stories about like people going
He
into
also
like the
had a
bars the
really
next
low amount
day.
of people saying that he did not deserve it. A lot of people said he didn't deserve to win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I've heard a lot of people like I've heard stories about a lot of people going into like bars the next day. It's like I can't believe Kelly lost. She won all the challenges. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 in a row. It just wild, wild stuff. And Jervis has a very good thing that I've heard him say a couple times on the Borneo DVD, where he always makes sure to thank Richard for winning. And Richard is always like, "What the fuck do you mean by that? You didn't vote for me, this, and that." And he's like, "No, do you know how epic it is that our season ended with you winning? That the ending was so hated." He's like, "That's just
Yeah.
awesome that the fact that our season was able to deliver this much and
Emotion.
ending that was so spectacular. Kelly winning it was gonna be a success no matter what. Don't let people
Yeah.
tell you that Richard winning Survivor was um why Survivor was successful. It
No, yeah.
wasn't. It was already a hit way before the final votes were revealed. Season 2 was always happening. It was always gonna be big.
Yeah.
But it
Like,
Why it
Richard
didn't.
winning was that like the gut punch of like a oh my god.
yeah,
How did
Kelly winning
we
would have
get
made it a success, but Richard winning makes it transcendent.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Like, does the show last until now if Kelly wins?
I think
Probably.
so. Yeah,
Maybe, but
I
it's
don't
definitely very different. And like, I know we shit on New Era Survivor. It'd be way worse if Kelly won.
I I think the season would be worse if Kelly won. I don't necessarily believe that Survivor would be that much different because Kelly did ultimately use the alliance to her advantage. She
Yeah.
just pretended she didn't at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just mean in
I
terms of like how the end of the game is handled.
yeah, I that is interesting. I think they are just creative enough where they would still show this struggle for Kelly and still kind of show why she's fake, even though she ends up winning. But I
Yeah,
do think we had the best ending possible with Richard winning, just
absolutely.
barely.
I agree.
Yeah. It's definitely the best ending possible. I mean, we've gone over it,
It,
but God, man, the fact that the fact that this season was able to come together so perfectly is an amazing, amazing thing.
mhm.
For
It's
sure.
a lot of it really just feels like movie magic. That's
Hmm.
you
Yeah,
couldn't have scripted some of these moments, and that was the
If
beauty
you're
of it.
you did
if
script
you're
some
gonna
of the
talk
moments, but you
about
couldn't have scripted it.
Yeah.
that is true. If you're gonna talk about impact for really any season, but like especially this season, I mean, this is the show. This is the impact.
Yeah, the impact is the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't have anything without this season as a whole.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
impact. The impact doesn't even.
There is no overstating how important this season is, how important every single event is, that it goes exactly the way it went in
Mhm.
terms of just like crafting a narrative and a show that is going to last probably beyond all of us.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like
Yeah,
the
that's
impact
probably.
didn't even. The impact wasn't even just the show itself. The impact was really on a lot of TV.
Oh yeah, so, like we said, so many imitators popped up in the name of Survivor. Mark Burnett had many different TV shows after this, some very successful, some that only lasted a season or two, some that ended up making us have the president of the United States we have right now.
So some far more successful
The
than
Oh
Apprentice.
God.
Survivor in terms of
I will. Okay, I
creating
gotta give a
fame.
little. I gotta give a little shout out. Apprentice UK, goated show. Anyway,
Oh yeah. I feel like we should mention that without this show, then Trump is probably not the president.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if our reality was worth Survivor, but
hey,
it's
Yeah.
a great show.
it was great while we have it. I mean,
If it ended after season 10, I'd be like, you know what? Maybe it was worth it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
gone this
it's hard
long.
to
I'm like,
argue
no,
what's
it was
worse
not.
between
I mean,
New Era and the Trump presidency.
yeah, I know that's kind of a crazy thing to think about, but like, uh, I think even then, the great stuff that we got from this show, you know, yeah,
Mhm.
the great stuff that we got from the show will always just be so phenomenal that
Yeah.
I think it would be worth it anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
this
with
is one of
that,
the defining shows of all time, especially of 21st century television.
yeah.
And I'm very happy we got to celebrate it and geek out and express our love for it. And thank
Yeah.
you for anyone that is listening. And please comment,
Yeah.
please. We love everyone here. And
And we
we
hope
love
you,
engaging and talking about
yeah,
Survivor in many different angles.
join
So
the
hit us up.
Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the last thing I want to say is if you made it this long into the video
Thank you.
somehow, A,
Yes.
thank you, and B,
Thank you.
for proof that anyone has made it this long in the video,
Hmm.
comment, BB Anderson is my dad.
And
Yeah.
comment a ranking of the cast if you
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
mind
you should do
replying
rankings
to
of the
Take
cast. Yes.
Do
take
the
the
polls.
polls that we will have
the
Yeah.
linked.
polls.
Mhm.
I look at the comments every time. We get like 5 or 6, so I always look at them.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yep.
most of
Yeah.
them are from people that are in the community, and
Yeah,
I
people
think
that
the
I
only one
know.
is
But I know,
All of
yeah.
my alt
that
accounts.
the only other person is the person that was like, "Yo, chill on."
Shout out that person. If you're still listening, that's awesome. Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
respect to it. No one
Uh-huh.
has to have the same opinion as us.
Mhm.
I
No,
know
I
this
mean, that's
time
the
we had a
point. That's
lot
what makes
of
it interesting.
yeah, once
Lot
we
to
get
say.
into seasons that aren't as universally beloved, there will be
Yeah.
43.
more yeah,
I think
opposing
Thailand's gonna be the
viewpoints.
first one we're gonna be disagreeing with each.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could
Thailand
see
is gonna
that.
be like fucking 6 hours.
Yeah, that's anyone's gonna be a real trooper if they get
But
through
yeah. All
Thailand
right,
nonetheless.
guys.
But
I'll let Mike close
thank
it
you
out
all.
here.
I also would like to say that while we don't have anything planned yet, we are going to try and get some news and deep dives with alumni of the.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have the Ouija board out right now. I'm getting BB Anderson on the
we're
line, so
getting
if you'll just wait
baby. We're
another
getting
Oh,
5
ready.
minutes, he'll be ready for his interview.
Mhm. And again, thank you guys all so much for watching. I'm in 5 minutes, and take care.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
like and
been real.
subscribe.